Alright guys, we're going to get going here. I know it's early in the afternoon here in North America, just after dinner time in EU. People will mosey on in whenever they have a chance. So welcome to the stream. On behalf of the Slytherin group, I am Dr. Zayas, usually of the Stoic Frog Gaming channel. Some of you may remember me from such YouTube videos as Command Northern Inferno, Scenario 7, Episode 4, and the not to be forgotten Command Northern Inferno, Scenario 5, Episode 3. Yes, good times were had many moons ago in Command on YouTube. So today we're going to be previewing the upcoming Command Live DLC called The King of the Border. This is a work in progress build that you're going to be seeing, so just keep that in mind. That what you see today can and may change before the release of the final version through the Matrix Game Store and the Steam Store. What we're looking forward to doing today is giving you a preview of both sides of the scenario, it's Colombia versus Venezuela, but of course in the background there's Russia on the Venezuelan side and NATO on mainly America on the Colombian side. So we'll be giving you a preview of both of those sides if we can. We'll be walking through the order of battle. We'll be walking through the basic idea behind the first few ticks of the clock, seeing what we need to do, at least initially, to try to defend our forces, try to bring some meaning to the first few minutes of this, based on the order of battle that we've seen and the tasks that we are given in the briefing. If you have any questions for me, just a point of order before we get going here. The best way to ask questions of me is not just to put your question in chat, although that may work, but if you use @Stoic Frog Gaming and then ask your question, it will highlight for me in my chat software here, so I'll more easily pick that out and be able to answer it for you. We're also joined today by the scenario author, Robbie7979. Say hi, Robbie. And if you want to ask him any questions about the scenario itself, he'd be the perfect guy to answer those for you, so you can just @Robbie7979 in the chat. Those to be highlighted for him as well. All right, so the goal for today, like I said, we're going to preview the scenario here. Let's pull it up and see what we've got in front of us here. Like I said earlier, guys, I do have a bit of a throat cold, so if you hear me slurping my tea or coughing off mic, or muting for a little bit here, don't worry. It's not a technical difficulty. It's just forces of nature at work. All right, so here we are with the preview of the most recently announced Command Live DLC, The King of the Border. It is set October 28th, 2019, just about, 8 months into the future. We're in the Caribbean Sea, focusing on Colombia and Venezuela, and our playable sides are United States and Russia for a duration of 2 days. Just going to read through the scenario overview here, and then we're going to move on to the briefing for our first chosen side. The crisis that has enveloped Venezuela since 2013 has reached the boiling point. The government of Caracas has made assertions on several occasions that the reason for this humanitarian catastrophe is the constant interference of the United States of America and its puppets in the region conspiring to stop the glorious Bolivarian revolution started by Hugo Chavez. These suspicions have been reinforced by the blooming relationship between Colombia and NATO, culminating in the 2015 joint military operation against maritime piracy. Recently, the situation has further escalated as two Colombian border towns, Cucuta and Arauca, have been the focus of several skirmishes between soldiers wearing the uniform of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces of Venezuela and local Colombian border troops. Claiming the episode is a machination of Washington to destroy the revolution, Venezuela has asked Russia for support, offering the Caribbean island of Orchila as a permanent outpost. Moscow, eager to expand its political influence into South America, agreed immediately and has dispatched a joint expeditionary force in aid of its new ally. The United States has declared its support for Bogota, promising protection from aggression by any means, and have put their forces in Panama and Puerto Rico on the highest of alert. All right, so we're looking at the scenario here that has a full level of difficulty. It looks to be a very difficult scenario with a high level of complexity. Like I said earlier, there are two possible sides to play, the Russian and the American sides. And we're going to start off today by playing the USA side. All right, here. So we've got the overview of the American side. Again, I'm just going to read this through, so we all have the same starting point before we load into the scenario. So the situation. At the border of the cities in Cucuta and Arauca, The riots have erupted, and then it's not clear who fired first, but the ground forces have been fighting for several days in bloody conflicts. Putin declared 2 days ago that the behavior of the Colombian army is inadmissible and that it plans to intervene with an iron fist. We know that Russia is coming in defense of Venezuela, so we have to support Colombia, helping with its airspace and taking control of the waters. Now we're expecting on the enemy forces, both Venezuelan and Russian, we're expecting Su-30 Mark II flankers, MiG-29Ks, F-16 Falcons, MiG-31 BM Foxhounds, Su-35Ss, and the Su-57, the PAC-F, the Russian answer for the F-22 Raptor. From the sea, we're also expecting possible frigates, aircraft carriers, and submarines of the class Oscar III. Interesting if we should see the Kuznetsov. I hear she's been having some mechanical difficulties recently. Wonder if she can make the trip to the Caribbean waters. We'll see. We'll have to see if we can pick her out here once we get the scenario started. Friendly forces-wise, we've got some B-1Bs available to us for strategic bombing. We've got the F-35 Lightnings, F-15C Eagles, F-16 CMs, Super Hornets, some Raptors, and in support, we've got the Hawkeye, some Sentries, Poseidons for anti-submarine warfare, and some electronic warfare Hornets as well. The Growler variant, of course. On the seas, we have 3 sets of fleets available to us. We have the Ronald Reagan strike group featuring the Ronald Reagan, the John Finn, and the Lake Erie. We have a U.S. patrol fleet with the Hughes City, Mahon, and the Bainbridge. And submarines available to us are 3 in total, the Jimmy Carter, the Seawolf, and the USS Hawaii. Now looking at the Allied forces from our ally in Colombia, it looks like we're pretty limited with their forces. They've got the Kafir C-10, which, if I'm not mistaken, is an Israeli variant of the Mirage 5, I think. Somewhat of an older aircraft, more of an interceptor than a fighter. And the A-29B Super Tucano, a prop-driven light ground attack aircraft. So it looks like, just by a quick look at the scenario side briefing here for the USA, we're going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Assuming the expectation for the enemy forces is accurate, which I do believe it must be, because Venezuela is actually kitted out with some pretty nice hardware, like the F-16 Falcons, and I believe some flankers as well. Colombia on its own is not going to have a lot of ability to defend its airspace, so we've got our work cut out for us, defending our allies and helping them turn the tide here. Our mission, we have 2 points here. One is to support Colombia, defending facilities and the Air Force. We are to destroy 2 Blackjack nuclear bombers at the airport on the island of Orchilla. We are to avoid losses from both sides as much as possible, and we are to eliminate any Russian naval forces and Venezuelan Air Force assets. And the special note here at the bottom says, defend the cities near the border, Aroca and Cucuta from the enemy. We have MLRS artillery available. All right. So that is the side briefing for the U.S. Like I said, I've got about 2.5 to 3 hour window today to stream for us to do the preview of this scenario. The plan is to preview the American side, look at the order of battle, look at how the scenario is laid out, and come up with a basic plan off the start here to see how we're going to marshal our forces to best meet our initial objectives. And then we're going to take a look at the Russian side as well to do a fair preview from both sides, kind of give you an idea what the scenario is about without giving too much away. And yet again, I want to reiterate that this is a preview of an unreleased Command Live DLC scenario that has been announced but not released. And as such, what you're seeing today may or may not be the final variant of what you're seeing. So changes may happen. There may be differences from what you see today versus the release version. It's still very much a work in progress, but obviously the main points are in place, so we can preview it for you. Alrighty. So initially, looking at the theater of operations here, just checking out. Yeah, we have no land-based assets in the United States, in the continental United States. Looks like we are completely confined here to the Caribbean Sea. Starting from the east and moving our way west on Puerto Rico. Zoom in here a little bit. We've got 1, 2, 3 air bases. One is Rafael Hernandez Airport. We've got 42 aircraft at this location. We've got 11 B-1Bs, 3 of which are unavailable to us. But we are loaded out with some very nice long-range weaponry. We've got the, do you call it LRASM? The LRASM, which is a long-range anti-surface missile, which I believe is still in trials and development, if not initial production. A fairly new weapon, if I'm not mistaken. Range of 430 nautical miles. Has active radar. Has an imaging seeker. Uses the Tomahawk missile data link, so you know it's got a very capable navigation and planning system. And is capable of hitting surface ships, land structures, mobile units, and runways. So it's a very much a multi-purpose weapon that we probably can use for quite a lot of targeting purposes in this scenario. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those equipped. 6 of our B-1Bs equipped with that loadout. 24 LRASMs on each B-1, which means, quick math here, that's roughly 150 LRASMs available to us immediately, which is pretty awesome. One thing I do want to check out here is our stores on the ground as well, see what our options are, if we have any better options available to us based on what we think we might be using these bombers for. And it looks like we've got 5 more loadouts of the LRASM with the 24 missiles per loadout. And we have some cluster bomb munitions, which, if I'm not mistaken, are very short-ranged. Yeah, 15 nautical mile range. Certainly something we wouldn't be using against anything aside from land structures and mobile units. So given the purpose of, at least based on the scenario briefing, based on what we think we're going to be doing, leaving these B-1Bs equipped with their LRASMs is probably the best course of action initially here. We also have some trouble speaking, but we're gonna push on through. We also have 2 B-1s that are set up with JASMs. More of a land attack variant, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, land structures, mobile units, and runways are its capable targets. A range of 250 nautical miles, so again, a very good standoff distance for us. Means we won't have to get very close to those Russian or Venezuelan anti-air assets. We only have 2 of those in stock, and I don't believe I saw, yeah, we don't have any. Oh wait, we do. We've got 5 reloads of those available as well. All right, so that gives us a little bit of flexibility. 24 JASMs per B1, so that means we've got 48 ready to go. Definitely 1 or 2 of those B1s loaded with the JASM should be able to take out an airfield for us, or at least very much give us a lot of damage and keep that, do a lot of damage on the ground and allow us to knock an airbase off the air, or at least do a lot of damage to slow them down a little bit. Looking at what else we have here at Rafael Hernandez. We've got our F-16s. Let's see, we've got F-16 CM Block 50s. We've only got 5 available to us. 2 are armed with ground attack variants. We've got IR-based Mavericks. Again, short range, but 6 to 8 nautical miles is the range on them. Yeah, 8 nautical miles, but they're pretty flexible. We can use them to attack surface ships, land structures, mobile units. So they're pretty flexible based on what we need them to hit. We also have 3 F-16s available with AMRAAMs, the D variant, the most modern and longest range variant that we have in our arsenal, I do believe. 75 nautical mile range on those. Pretty standard. Nice to see the D variant, though. The 75 nautical mile range is going to come in very handy, especially if the Russians have sent some of their top-notch equipment, like the briefing has stated. On the island here, we also have 4 KC-46 tankers. Nothing we really need to know about them, aside from the fact we've got 4 available. They are wing, drogue, and centerline boom capable, so that we can handle all customers. 6 Strike Eagles, 2 are unavailable, so we've got 4 in total. Again, we've got a JASM loadout. Only 1 JASM per Strike Eagle. 2 AMRAAMs, 2 Sidewinders for self-defense. What else do we have here for loadout availability? We certainly have an anti-air loadout capability if we do want to swap these guys from attack to anti-air capabilities. A lot of missiles on the ground for us to load up on these Eagles if we want to. We're going to keep them with the JASM loadout for now, though, just to hedge our bets that we might actually be using them for some attack, at least initially in the scenario. We got 3 P8s, only 2 available to us, both loaded out with anti-submarine warfare equipment. And then we've got 7 Raptors, of which 3 are unavailable. 4 are set to go with the standard internal loadout of 6 AIM-120Ds. Alrighty. Ooh, and the AIM-9X2. Let's just take a quick look at the newest variant of the Sidewinder. 10 nautical mile range, high off-bore sight. Yeah, pretty nice knife fighting capabilities on that Sidewinder. Hopefully we don't get our Raptors too close, though, where they have to use them. All right, so that's the first airbase on Puerto Rico. We are moving over here to Luis Munoz Marin International Airport. Again, we've got some F-16s, CM variant, Block 50s as well. Again, AIM-120s with the D variant on 4 of them. 4 Maverick loadouts, 1 reserve available. Alrighty, and it looks like we've got a whole bunch of them in maintenance. About maybe half. Yeah, half of the squadron's really unavailable to use. Slightly more than half. We do have 1 fighter that is reserve, though. Let's ready him up with a loadout that's going to do us some good here. We can either make him a ground attack with the IR-based Mavericks, or we can make him anti-air variants with various loadouts of either all Sidewinders or some AMRAAM with the D variants. Let's go with, well, maybe we should match what we already have. We've got this loadout, medium 400, so the equivalent to this, or it is this, I should say. What I think I will do is go with a similar loadout using the sniper pod. The reason I want to pick up the sniper pod is simply for the forward-looking infrared capabilities of the pod, which will help us in combating any stealth fighters that the Russians have brought to the fight. And one of the drawbacks of these F-16s, for example, without the sniper pod, is that we're effectively dependent upon whatever we can emit, so our radar specifically, and whatever emissions we receive. If the Russian fighters, say, for example, don't fire up their radar, and they use only their infrared search and track, so their forward-facing cameras to detect us and to attack us, then our F-16s are effectively blind. They won't see anything on radar until it's too late. And giving them the sniper pod allows them to at least have eyes forward to possibly get eyes on those Russian stealth fighters before it's too late. 100 nautical mile range on the search and track ability for this pod. Capable of air searching and surface searching and ground searching, so it's very capable of identifying and tracking any target that we should come across. We're only going to have 1 of these F-16s set up like this, and it's probably going to take about 3 hours to get him all set. Yeah, 3 hours. He'll be ready in, well, we've got 2 days in the whole scenario, so it's not a big chunk of time. But at least initially, these 4 F-16s are going to be out in the fight, hoping beyond hope that there's nothing out there that is not emitting and has them tracked by visual means. All right, so those are the F-16s taken care of on Luis Munoz Marin International Airport. Check in chat for a second here. Midge C3, did you miss much? Not at all. We just started a few minutes ago doing a preview of the American side of the most recently announced Command Live DLC, The King of the Border. Just going through the order of battle at the moment, seeing what we have available to us, and then we'll move on to giving some initial orders and moving that clock forward. Is there a release date? As Robbie says in chat, the release date has not been announced. And again, this is a preview stream, and what you're seeing in front of you, this scenario is subject to change because it has not been finalized yet. Obviously, the major details from the scenario are pretty much set, but it is a work in progress, so what you see today can and maybe will change before it is released. Yeah, no worries. All right, so we also have some E2Ds, the Advanced Hawkeye, most recent variant of the airborne early warning aircraft that's usually carrier-based. Let's see, what kind of range do we have? 350 nautical mile range on the radar, which is air and surface search. We also have an IRST. which gives us some visual imaging capabilities. Very similar to, not the sniper pod, at least it looks like it's based on the lantern technology. And gives us 100 nautical mile range at least. Doesn't say whether it's omnidirectional or whether it's directional based, so I'm guessing it's pretty all-encompassing around the entire aircraft. Just a wild guess. I don't think it tells us anywhere in here what it's capable of. Let me see if there's anything further down. No. So I'm not sure if it's omnidirectional or if it's just if it's just a section of the aircraft that it can see around. But we will certainly use that visual capability to help us, if it can help us. I mean, they're very slow prop-driven aircraft. Certainly against a modern fighter like a PAC-57 or the Su-57, the one that has stealth capabilities. Certainly not going to give us a lot of options if our Hawkeye is our final line of defense against stealth aircraft. But we'll see if we can use it regardless and see if it gives us any advantage. We have 3 P-8s, 2 of them set for maritime surveillance, which simply will not do. There are no weapons associated with maritime surveillance. Let's set them up with anti-submarine. Yeah. We'll set them up with an anti-submarine warfare kit, so we can actually use them for hunting the Oscars that are apparently in the ocean around our carrier group. Never like sending planes out without any weapons on board. They'll be ready in 4 hours, so not totally the worst thing ever. And then we've got another 5 KC-46s with 1 reserve, which we can set to tanker configuration, ready in 3 hours. We've got 3 that are currently available to us as well. All right. So the final airfield on Puerto Rico here for the American forces is Naval Air Station Roosevelt Roads. 30 aircraft on the ground, 14 usable to us. Again, we're seeing a lot of unready aircraft, which, you know, when I see 30 aircraft at an airbase, I'm thinking, gee, that's wonderful. I've got a whole bunch of assets to use with which to take the fight to the enemy. And then I see 14 out of 30 are available, and that's kind of demoralizing. But we will soldier on and see if we can't make some hay with what we've been given. So of the F-35s here, the entire 57th or 58th Fighter Squadron, looks like 5 fighters in total, are all in maintenance. And the 62nd Fighter Squadron has 5 available, 3 of which are in anti-air configuration, internal only, so maintaining their radar, their stealthy radar profile, with 4 AMRAAM-Ds and 2 ground attack variants with Paveway 2s. Again, Paveway 2 is roughly, you got to be on top of your target to hit it. 4 nautical miles is the range. Laser guided and capable of hitting ships, land structures, mobile units, and runways. So a fairly flexible weapon, although you do have to be on top of your target to hit it. Moving on, we've got some more Hawkeyes. 2 out of 4 are available. We've got 1 single EA-18 Growler available to us. Of course, with the ECM pod, that should allow us to get some, be a little sneaky once we start the offensive portion of this scenario. Of course, jamming for our B1s, maybe jamming for a strike on the enemy carrier group, which I'm guessing is going to be somewhere in this region here. The fact we only have 1, though, means we're going to have to marshal that and hang on to it until we're absolutely certain we need it. We've got 7 Hornets, 3 of which are unavailable. Again, a light AMRAAM 120D loadout for anti-air warfare. We have 2 EA-6 Prowlers, both unavailable. That is heartbreaking. And we've got 2 P-8s. Again, set up in maritime surveillance. Maybe. I don't like the fact they don't have weapons on them. But at the same time, yeah, we're going into so here's my thought process. Stop me if this sounds silly. I'm expecting a carrier somewhere in this area of the Caribbean Sea. I'm also expecting Venezuela, which has a huge border here, probably chock full of SAMs and very capable 4th generation fighters, to be sorting out in this area as well, either looking for my carrier or putting up some defensive air patrols. If I send out a P-8 Poseidon that's on maritime surveillance without any weaponry into this area, chances are good she's going to, A, find her targets, in this case the Russian carrier group, but also have no way of defending herself or even making an offensive attack if she finds something she can attack with her undersea warfare loadout. Based on the fact that a maritime surveillance loadout gives us no options aside from running, even if we detect something, I'm just thinking that I should take these guys and give them, well, all that talk for nothing. There are no other loadouts available to us here. It looks like we're stuck with maritime surveillance. We'll just have to be very careful not to put these guys into a compromising situation. I don't know what I can do with them right off the hop here. They do have ELINT capabilities. Just pull up the card here, the database entry. They certainly do have ELINT capabilities. 700 nautical mile range on their electronic intelligence system. Infrared search and track, 30 nautical miles for cameras. Mark 1 eyeball, of course, as everybody has. 200 nautical miles on the radar for surface search. Not as good as our Hawkeyes that are at the same, or on the same island. So I would probably prefer the Hawkeyes to do my surface search for me as well. I don't know. Maritime surveillance for those P-8s. I think I'm going to have to leave them on the ground for the time being. Just until we know what we're up against and that it's safe for them to fly. I mean, even with an undersea warfare configuration, they're still pretty vulnerable. We just have to, we just be able to do something. We found some subs, which right now they can't do anyway. So we'll leave them as they are and keep them on the ground for now. Alrighty, moving on west. I don't believe we've got anything else in the way. Puerto Rico over here. A whole lot of empty space that, well, to be honest with you, probably is not empty. We just don't know what's there yet. Moving over here to our other sea forces, we've got 3 submarines. The USS Jimmy Carter, a Seawolf class submarine. What do we have available to us? Well, we've got 12 Tomahawks. Wonderful, wonderful Tomahawks. Range of 1,600 nautical miles. Capable of hitting runways, land structures, and mobile units. Very capable devices as long as the enemy air defenses have been dealt with. We have plenty of decoys, plenty of countermeasures, plenty of jammers, and 24 whole torpedoes with which to destroy the enemy subsurface and possibly surface fleet. We have the USS Seawolf just southeast of the Jimmy Carter by about, let's see here, about 70 nautical miles. Same capabilities. We were loaded with 12 Tomahawks and 24 torpedoes. I guess the major difference between the Jimmy Carter and the Seawolf is the fact that the Jimmy Carter is loaded with 48 SEALs. Don't know if we'll have a chance to use them, but they are certainly there. You're definitely right, Bitchsy. We can certainly use the ELINT capability. My only, the only cognitive dissonance I have with that idea is that the E2D Advanced Hawkeye not only has a larger radar and surface search area, 350 nautical miles versus 200, but it also has the exact same ELINT capabilities. Or not, I shouldn't say capabilities, it has the exact same ELINT range. So if I'm going to use an aircraft, I'm going to use the one that has the better capabilities, at least initially. Now, just to double check, ANALQ217 on the Hawkeye. Looking at the Poseidon, her ELINT package is different. So maybe there is a case to be made for using it as ELINT, because the package here, running the ELINT capabilities on the Poseidon, is different than the Hawkeyes. My initial response, though, would be, if I can get one plane to do everything, instead of having multiple platforms trying to do singular tasks, I'm going to use the one that can do everything. So, you bring up a good point, though. I shouldn't just leave them on the ground. I should put them in the air, at least one of them, at a safe distance to see if there's any ELINT additional information it can give me aside from what the Hawkeye gives me. Based on the different ELINT packages, I'm not sure on paper what the differences are, so we'll have to trial and error and see what happens. Now, just south of the Seawolf. Oh, hey, Kalodi. He says, I believe the Jimmy Carter is a modified Seawolf class that primarily does sneaky, sneaky stuff. All right. So if we need to sneak somewhere, the Jimmy Carter is the sneaker. With those 48 seals available to us if we have to go and reach out and slap somebody. Just south of the Seawolf by about roughly 130 nautical miles, it looks like. Let's do a 160 nautical miles. And for those of you who don't know the interface very well, I'm hitting Control D and then clicking to bring up the range finding tool. Roughly 160 nautical miles between these 2 points. We have the USS Hawaii, which is a Virginia Flight 1, West Virginia. No, it's just Virginia Flight 1. I've been playing another game that has the West Virginia in it, the old battleship. So that's why I'm a little confused. The USS Hawaii, the Virginia Flight 1 class, which I do believe is pretty similar to the Seawolves in terms of loadouts. We've got 24 Tomahawks instead of 12, and we've only got 12 torpedoes instead of 24. But for all intents and purposes, the armor loadout or the ammo loadout of the Hawaii is, or the of the Seawolves is very similar, and the capabilities are as well. Having ships or boats named after former presidents tempts one to go blue on blue. Well, there you go, Group Drug. Something that's the wonderful thing about command modern air naval operations. If anything else, it is a giant sandbox where anything at all is possible. Even the craziest scenarios you can dream up, like blue on blue, presidential ship on presidential ship, tomfoolery. All right, just give me a second here to clear my throat, guys. I'll be back with you in a few seconds. Alrighty. So moving slightly west, we've got 2 surface action groups here. One is the U.S. Patrol Fleet, which includes 3 ships: USS Bainbridge, USS Hugh City, and USS Mahan. Looking at the Bainbridge, it's an Arleigh Burke Flight 2A. Guided missile destroyer, of course. Great sensor packages, lots of radars, lots of capabilities. Very capable for air defense. Take a look at what she is loaded out with here. Let's just go into unit mode instead of group mode. Using the menus here to do so I can be a little more transparent on how I'm working things here. I can remember how to do it. All right. So the shortcut key for going into unit mode versus formation mode is 9 on the numpad. Don't ask me where that is in the menus here. I feel like I'm missing an obvious key setting. There it is. Switch to group view. So if you're looking to do the same thing I just did on the with a hotkey, click on the formation, go switch to group view, or switch to unit view, bringing up the 3 units in the group. That's the problem. I've been playing this for so long. I've got all the shortcut keys memorized, but where they are in the actual menu when you're trying to stream and you're trying to show people not only what the scenario is about, but how to use the actual interface, me hitting shortcut keys is not very handy. But showing you where the options are in the menus is. So I'll try to keep that in mind and do that, although, to be honest with you, the shortcut keys are memorized, the menu positions for these options are not. So sorry about the rooting around, but we'll get through this. So looking at the very first ship here, the USS Hugh City. Actually, no, let's go back to the, what was it, the Bainbridge? Yeah, we're looking at the Bainbridge. It's got 90 plus 50. About 160 Tomahawks, 90 of the C variant and 50 of the E variant. I do believe, I could be mistaken on this, but I do believe the Block 2 variant and the Block 4 variant, they differ in not only the targets they can hit, but also the ability to be given mid-course updates. Let's see here. So this is the Tomahawk TLAM-C Block 2 variant, an older variant from 87 to 98. Can hit runways, land structures, and that's it. She has terrain following, Can hit pre-briefed target only. Okay, so once she's launched at a target, that's it. That's all you can do. She is one and done. Looking at the Tomahawk Block 4 from 2005, a much newer variant. All right, you can hit land structures, mobile units, and runways, so slightly higher, slightly more targets available to attack. Mobile units, I think, are the addition there compared to the older variant, and also features. So we've got bearing only launch capabilities, and I do believe, even though it doesn't say we can do it here. Oh yes, here it is. Guidance type, mid-course plus passive terminal guidance. So we can do updates as long as we've got a data link connection. We can tell this Tomahawk where to go and how to get to its target if we so desire. So, a lot of Tomahawks, some with slightly more functionality than the others, but 140, my math is off. 140 Tomahawks in total is always a nice thing to have. Never going to complain about that. Oh, wrong one. Taking a look at the weapon stores here. Seeing what we've got loaded, we've got 50 Tomahawks in Mark 41 VLS with some anti-air warfare units. Now, if I'm reading this correctly, which I do believe I am, we've got 154 units loaded into a 64 capable 64 cell unit. I'm not sure what that means. I see what you're saying there, Primarch X. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. So there's 64 cells in the VLS. We've got 154 weapons effectively assigned to the VLS in 64 slots. I'm not exactly sure how the math there works. Anybody know what that discrepancy is about? I mean, I'm not a military guy by any means. I'm just a regular old civilian who likes to play video games. So I don't really have the inbound working knowledge that a lot of people out there do have. So if you've got any information about how that's, from what I understand, the VLS is you can't reload it at sea. You got to go back to port to do that. But I could be mistaken. I'm not sure how that works. I mean, we could fire off 50 Tomahawks and see if she decides to reload. That could be one thing we do. Certainly don't mind firing off my Tomahawks. I really enjoy doing that. All right, well, either way, it's telling us we've got 154 out of 64 that are loaded. And it looks like, if I'm reading this correctly, we've got 50 Tomahawks here, the Block 4 variant, and all of our 90 Block 2 variants here as well. If I'm not mistaken, they're probably fireable. But either way, that's more of an interface issue than a scenario issue here. So let's move on to the USS Hugh City, which is a guided missile cruiser, Ticonderoga class. Again, very capable in the anti-air sphere. Got 81 Block 4s. Tomahawks yet again, 8 harpoons. Plenty of anti-air missiles. 130 nautical mile range on the E-rams here. Plenty of capability to defend our carrier group, which is right behind us, only about 50 nautical miles just northwest of us. So if we needed a canary in the coal mine to suss out incoming air attacks or anything that's sea skimming all the way up to, what, 120,000 feet, I think, is the capability of this weapon. 115,000 feet is the capability of this weapon. So anything from 0 to 115,000 feet, we can certainly engage with this ship. If we need anything in front of the carrier to do that, we're in a very good position to do so. Looking at the USS Mahan, again in Arleigh Burke, Flight 2. 32 Tomahawks of the Block 3 variety. Haven't seen the Block 3s yet. Let's take a quick look at what they're capable of. Still, only runways and land structures, not mobile units like the Block 4s. And pre-briefed targets only. Alright, so slightly less capability than the Block 4s that we have here. Same as the other Arleigh Burke. But either way, we've got quite the force available to us in this group. Definitely for anti-air warfare, and definitely to reach out and touch somebody from a from a land attack standpoint. If we scroll out here and look at these orange circles, that's the land attack range of our Tomahawk cruise missiles. So we cover Colombia, of course. We cover Venezuela. Heck, we cover Florida. We cover New Orleans, some of the Carolinas. Yeah, we got huge coverage here. Almost got up to Canada. So anything we want to hit with the Tomahawks, we certainly have the ability to. We have a lot available to us, both on our submarines and on this U.S. patrol fleet. Now, taking a step back here to the northwest, we have the real diamond of our forces in this scenario, which is the Ronald Reagan Strike Group. 3 ships in the group. Going back into unit mode, hitting the number pad 9 key. 67 aircraft on ship, 47 available to us. Lots of Super Hornets. We got some anti-air loadouts with the AMRAAM-D. And we have some Mavericks, which are, again, short-ranged, pretty flexible attack missiles for us. 8 nautical mile range, can hit surface ships, land structures, mobile units. Be great for supporting the Colombian ground forces, as well as possibly picking off any ships that are damaged or fallen out of their group near the later parts of the scenario. Let's see, it's got some laser guided bombs. Nothing too groundbreaking here. It's all pretty short range stuff, 4 nautical miles on the GBU 10s, 8 nautical miles on the GBU 24s. So again, something that we really need to have assurances that the ground-based SAM defenses are taken care of before we zoom in and attempt to use those ordnances. Making sure there are no reserve aircraft that I can set up here. We do have 5 Growlers available to us, which is a nice change. We did see in Puerto Rico we only had 1, which made me think we were kind of up a creek when it came to the electronic warfare capabilities of our forces in this scenario. But it looks like we've got a few extras here on the Reagan, which will help us immensely with our electronic warfare capabilities. 2 are available for offensive ECM. 3 of them are available for anti-radiation attacks with their HARM missiles. Again, the HARM missile, anti-radiation missile, range of 70 nautical miles, capable of hitting anything that's radiating, including ground-based and or ship-based radars. It doesn't specify here between ship-based or ground-based, but I know for a fact that I've had a lot of success in the past using anti-radiation missiles like the HARM to attack ships and take them out. Do an alpha strike with all the cruise missiles. Trust me, if that's one of my favorite tactics to do. And if we were able to play, if this wasn't the preview, where I'm only going to go skin deep into the scenario, and we're actually playing it through the entire way, I'd probably at some point do a nice alpha strike with all of those Tomahawks. It'd be a shame to waste them, is what I'm saying. But since we're only doing a preview build here, only going through the order of battle and a few ticks of the clock on both sides, we're going to hold off on the Tomahawk apocalypse for now. Some anti-submarine helicopters here on the Reagan. Got 4 advanced Hawkeyes. Actually, they're all available. This one is not equipped for the airborne early warning task. Let's get that set in 3 hours. Got some Greyhounds, which have seals on them. And we've got more helicopters. What is this? Oasis helicopter towed magnetic and acoustic multi-influence minesweep. Okay, so it's a minesweeping device. Don't know if we'll need to use that. Can I change these guys to something? Search and rescue, cargo, hellfires. Well, nothing that's going to be too useful to us, so we'll leave them as they are for now. All right. So moving on from the Reagan's air complement here. You're asking what the Reagan has in terms of weapon stores? She has 42 RIM 116C Ram Block 2s, 10 nautical mile range, anti-air capable, and capable versus Sea Skimmer as well. So decent point defense weapons. She's got 16 Rim 162Ds, 130 or 130, 1 to 30 nautical mile range. Let's read that correctly. Not a great range on those guys, but decent enough to give her some greater extension than her basic point defense with the 116s. And then we have what I believe is a close-in weapon system. It doesn't say Sea Whiz. Could just be it could just be 50 caliber machine guns as well. The epitome of point defense. Last ditch point defense. All right, moving on to the Lake Erie, another Ticonderoga class anti-air warfare cruiser. Looks like she's lacking in the Tomahawk capabilities. No Tomahawks are here. Very much kitted out for anti-air warfare. Looking at her SM2s, range of 50 nautical miles. Looking at her SM6's range of 130 nautical miles. Anti-ship, anti-ballistic missile capable. Capable against surface ships, so we can actually use this to attack. Interesting, interesting. File that one away for future reference. SM3's a range of 1325. Most definitely. Missiles and guided bombs only. This would be our anti-ballistic missile capable defender. Target altitude of, that's a lot of zeros. 46. And a lot of zeros. Feet above sea level. Frere Oakenshield, thank you for the four bits. Using Slytherin's overlay, I was like, what the heck is that sound? What's going on here? Thank you for the bits, much appreciated. All right, and then our final ship of interest is the USS John Finn with Tomahawks, anti-air capable ESSMs, 30 nautical mile range on them. And, well, not a lot of anything else aside from possibly some anti-submarine vertically launched rocket torpedoes with 9 nautical mile range on them. Hopefully the enemy submarines do not get close enough whereby we need to use those rocket launched torpedoes. Looks like we already have, we've already got an E2 advanced Hawkeye in the air. At 30,000 feet, has got his radars on. Pretty decent range on his radars, covering, well, most of the Caribbean Sea, to be honest with you, covering Guantanamo on Cuba, covering Jamaica, some of Haiti, some Nicaragua, there we go, some of Honduras, so quite the range on her. The surface search radar, gonna have to get a little aggressive with her and move her towards this area here, I think. So we're gonna adjust her initial flight path. Not only bring her closer to the center of the Caribbean Sea, but also a bit closer to the coast here, so we can get a better picture of what's going on there. Alrighty. Moving on to Central America. We have, well, we're still in unit mode. Let's go back to formation mode, or group mode. Ungulant. We are playing as the Americans on the side of the Columbia in this scenario. Actually, now is probably a good time to recap. We've been going for about an hour. So for those of you who joined us a little bit late, let me just recap what we're doing presently. First of all, welcome to the stream. My name is Dr. Zayas on behalf of the Slytherin group and normally the Stoic Frog Gaming channel, but today we're streaming a preview on the Slytherin channel here. Welcome to everybody. Hope you're all doing well on this Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, depending on where you are in the world. This is a preview of the most recent Command Live DLC called The King of the Border. It's been announced, but it has not been released, so this is a work in progress build that you're seeing today, which is subject to change. We're looking at the US side, which is on the side of Colombia. We're up against Venezuela, which is also backed by Russia. So in this scenario, Venezuela is aggressing on Colombia. We're in charge right now of defending 2 cities. I believe they're right here. Cucuta and Aroca. Both of these cities are going to be under heavy attack. Our job right now is to defend these cities from air attack and presumably ground attack as well as take out the Russian naval and air forces in the area as well. Just going through the order of battle here. Once we get through the order of battle, we're going to set up some patrols and just kind of get the scenario started. And then, time permitting, we'll move on over to the Russian side and give you a preview of what's going on there as well. I do have a hard cutoff around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, so in about 2 hours. So I do want to get both sides covered. That is the hope for today and the goal. Just to give you an idea of what we're up against here and get your appetite whetted for the King of the Border, which will be coming out in the future. Alrighty, so we're looking at Panama, I do believe, right? That's Panama. We've got 3 air bases here. Enrique Adolfo Jimenez Airport. 10 aircraft on ground, 3 available. Looks to be mainly support aircraft. We got 2 tankers, KC-46s again, plus maritime surveillance capable P-8 Poseidon. Do I have any other options? So we've got nothing on the ground here, so she's going to stick as a maritime surveillance loadout, which again gives us no active weaponry, but she does have a pretty impressive sensor, a sensor package, which we will definitely make use of going forward. Further on down to the south, we've got Tocumen International Airport, which has 16 aircraft on the ground, 7 available to us. We've got 14 F-15 Strike Eagles, but this sea of red is not very... It really pulls at the heartstrings. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 14 unavailable to us. 3 of which are in reserve, though, so we can actually ready these guys up with a loadout. Looks like we've got anti-air capabilities available to us, plus some Maverick, some close-in ground attack capabilities, and some general purpose bombs, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 1 nautical mile range. These are not exactly what I want to see on my Strike Eagles. Let's set them up with an AMRAAM heavy loadout. We got plenty of missiles on the ground. No harm, no foul doing that. Actually, did I miss something? Yes, I did. Let's put the sniper pod on them. Again, as I stated earlier, we're going to be up against Russian 4th generation, if not 5th generation, aircraft in this scenario. One of the advantages they have over American aircraft is the fact they not only have radar, they also have a fairly sophisticated infrared search and track system that can lock an aircraft up and guide weaponry into that aircraft, such as long-range IR-based missiles. So if they aren't radiating and they are radar resistant, such as the the Su-57. Let me check that. Let me get that right. Let's get that right. Going back to the side briefing here. Su-57 Pac F, the stealth fighter that the Russians have used to counter the F-22. If we're up against that and we can't detect it on radar, then we need something that has imaging capabilities, and putting the sniper pod on our F-15 Strike Eagles gives us that capability. Excuse me. All right, so that's the reasoning for that. Going off the briefing, we should run into enemy stealth aircraft. We want to be ready for that. We have two Falcons on the ground, both unavailable due to maintenance, so we can't do anything with them. Howard Air Force Base, 51 aircraft on the ground, 38 available to us. We have some F-18C pluses with 2 reserve. Ooh, we've got a very good ready rate here. What's this? 6, 7, 8. 8 out of 9 are available to us. Armed with Mavericks. Let's see what exactly. 65E. Is that this one or that one? So they're armed with this loadout right here. We got plenty in reserve, so we could choose that if we wanted to. But we do have other options. And I've been, we did see on the Ronald Reagan, we do have some Growlers armed with harms for anti-radiation missions, whether it be SEED or DEED. Do they call it DEED or DEAD? Suppression of enemy air defense or destruction of enemy air defense. I think we'll go with some AARGMs. The short range version gives us a, well, what's our range on this? Doesn't give us a range loadout for us. I don't know how far we can travel. Short range versus long range. Now let's do a quick eyeball here. So again, Control D to get the range finding tool up. Click, and then we see the border of Venezuela in Colombia. Between Colombia and Venezuela, it's about a 380 nautical mile flight. If we take a look at the F-18C pluses, what is our general range on these guys? All right, so the loadout, okay, so we're readying up these three with AARGMs. Oh, these two, this guy's in maintenance, my bad. Let's go with this loadout. Bring up the database entry here. We want to take a look at the aircraft loadout here in the database entry. If I can find it. There's the harms, there's the AARGMs. All right. So short range gives us 340 nautical mile strike radius. Long range gives us 500. Given the fact that we said from the distance from that airfield to the border between Colombia and Venezuela is 380 nautical miles at its shortest, taking the long range package seems to make sense. So let's change these guys from the standard package to, wait a second, we've got short range and standard. I guess we were on the best possible one already. So we should get about 500 nautical miles out of this strike package with these two Hornets set up for AARGMs. Alrighty. Moving on, at Howard Air Force Base here, we've got 6 KC-46s on the ground. 1 is ready, reserve unavailable. Let's change that around. Give him a tanker loadout. Thank you for the follow, Pit Fiend 88. Moving on, we've got 5 Growlers. 2 are available. 1 is in reserve. 2 are in reserve, actually. We've got 4 available to us. Let's get these guys readied up with 2 offensive ECM. Let's go for the suppression of enemy air defense loadout again with the AARGMs. They'll be ready in 6 hours. We have 10 Raptors here. Oh, break my heart. Only 4 available. Internal loadouts, AIM-120Ds yet again. 6 F-35s. 2 are unavailable, but they're reserve. This is pretty impressive because we've got 6 F-35s on the ground. We have 6 available to us. None are in maintenance. That is amazing. We only have the anti-air loader available to us. So we'll set that up here for the internal only, in case we need some stealth ability. Got 3 EA-6B Prowlers. The old workhorse. Set up with the AGM-88C with the harm missile. Again, for suppression of enemy air defense. Curious about the range on these. Just curious who's got the better range, the Hornets or the Prowler. The short range is 550 nautical miles and the regular range is 800. So definitely the Prowlers have the greater fuel range, or the greater strike range than our Hornets that we looked at earlier. Got 9 F-15Cs, 2 are available. 5 of them are set with an anti-air loadout. Let's set these guys up with, we've got the Legion IRST pod option. Never say no to that. 100 nautical mile range on the IRST infrared imaging search and track for both air Actually, no, it looks like it's only air search. Alrighty, we'll go with that. Go for the heavy AMRAAM loadout with the Legion pod. Matching the other setup for the other 5 F-15s. And finally, we've got 3 E2D Advanced Hawkeyes, 1 unavailable, 2 available. Already on a mission, apparently, as well. Now, the final base, that was the final base in Panama, so we're all done with that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is the end of the look at the order of battle for the American forces. We do have, however, some friendly forces in Colombia. Now, these forces are not available for me to use, as they are most certainly marked with the A component here, which means they're under AI control. Let's see, what does the AI have? They've got some Super Tucanos set for anti-air warfare patrols, some for land strikes, some Kafir C-10s, which are set for anti-air and land strikes. Python 5, that's only an IR-based missile, is it not? Yeah, 15 nautical mile range, IR seeker. All right, so very short-range anti-air capabilities for these Colombian planes. What do we have over here? More Super Tucanos. We've got 1 KC-767 for refuel. Moving on up to, where is this? This is Aroca. Got some MLRS artillery. It looks like this is not set for AI control, so I do believe I have control over what this attacks, should I desire it to attack something. The U.S. Mechanized Infantry Charlie Group looks to be 4 strikers, armed with machine guns. And we've got some Colombian Colombian infantry groups as well, both mechanized and not. Got a Ranger platoon out front here as well. So there are some boots on the ground, some American forces in the area of these 2 cities, Cucuta and Aroca. And again, same up here at Cucuta. Mechanized infantry, looks like machine gun based with MLRSs behind and Rangers in front. Okay, up north here, Rafael Nunez International Airport, 10 planes on the ground, all of them Kafirs, some with anti-air loadout, some with ground attack loadout. All right, so the Colombian defenses. I'm seeing a lot of aircraft, but I'm not seeing a lot of anti-air capable missiles, whether they be loaded on the Kafirs or the Tucanos, or on the ground. I don't see really any SAMs anywhere. We did see up here an a mobile AA unit, which, if I look closely, is anti-aircraft artillery. So again, not amazing in its capabilities. What can she do? Doesn't even give us the range at which they can engage. Oh, well, either way, it's not very impressive. We're not going to be able to rely on these AAA detachments to really do any sort of air defense for us. Here in Panama, we have some NASAMs. Short-ranged. If I can click on the right, there we are. 16 nautical miles, of course, based on the AMRAAM, the B variant, ground-launched AMRAAMs. So a capable missile, but since you're launching it from the ground, we lose a lot of range because, well, it was always meant to be launched at 35,000 feet. Hello, Pixel. Welcome to the stream. Have things kicked off much yet? Well, we're just finishing the look at the American forces loadout, as well as the Colombian forces, the Allied forces. And then we're going to set up some initial moves here for our forces and then get the clock going before we switch over to the Russian side and give them a fair shake as well. Again, we're previewing the most recently announced Command Live DLC today, The King of the Border. It hasn't been released yet, and this is a preview stream just to give you an idea of what the scenario is about and the units that you'll be playing with on both sides of the border. So we're not going to be playing this thing through to completion. we're just going to kick things off here a little bit and then switch over to give you a full view of what this scenario is capable of. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it is still under development, so what you see here today may not be exactly the finished product. Changes may occur between now and release. All right. So, like I said, I don't see many ground-based air defenses in Colombia. In fact, I see very little, if none at all. Taking a quick jump back here to our side briefing, we've been told we need to support the Colombia defending facilities and Air Force. We need to support Colombia and their facilities and Air Force destroy the nuclear bombers at the airport on the island of Orchilla, avoid losses, and eliminate naval and air forces of the Russian and Venezuelan persuasion. Well, we can certainly do some of that. Now, given the fact we aren't playing the entire scenario through, we're just going to kind of kick it off here and see how she rolls in the first 30 minutes to an hour of the scenario time. We are going to avoid anything that's going to take a lot of time. So we're going to see about defending the Colombian facilities and Air Force initially here, which means specifically the units around the two cities that have been mentioned in the briefing, Cucuta and down here at Arauca. And yes, just to reiterate, the scenario designer is actually with us right now. That is Robbie7979 in chat. If you have any questions about the scenario design itself or anything about the scenario in general, he is the perfect guy to answer them for you while he's here with us. So just at Robbie7979 in chat, and he'd be happy to answer your questions for you. Alrighty, so what we're going to do here before we get our missions all planned, we're going to hit the clock, make it go forward 1 second and see what spawns, and then stop the clock again. There we are. So that gives us a view of what is actually here on the Russian side and the Venezuelan side. The island of Orchilla is right here. This is where apparently the Russians have parked some nuclear-capable bombers that we are being told we need to take out eventually. Plenty of radars, plenty of coverage by the Venezuelan and Soviet, or not Soviet, and the Russian forces. Force of habit, sorry. You play enough Cold War games, you got to keep Russian and Soviets separate. Plenty of airfields here from which the enemy can launch strikes, plenty of radars in position. Certainly some that are much closer to the border that we might be able to strike eventually, if we need to. Nothing really down south here. Most of it's focused on the northern side of Venezuela. Nothing in the oceans that we've picked up here. We also have some orange units that are not hostile. Guantanamo. Alright, some Cuban units as well. That's interesting. That was not mentioned in the briefing. Wonder what they're there for. Either way, we'll keep an eye on them nonetheless. Alright, so our first mandate here is to defend the cities. And we're going to have to defend them from ground attack and air attack, which means setting up a few missions in this general area. Now, the cities are close enough together, I feel like I might be able to defend them with one giant mission. There is certainly a range issue, though. For example, from Panama to this city here, it's roughly 400 nautical miles, and to this one, as the crow flies, about 550 nautical miles. That's a long way to go. So we're going to have a refueling track roughly back here, and we're going to need to have our fighters on station very far away from their home base, with somewhat of a well-planned tanker track to keep them up in the air for a while. So let's start this off with the tanker track at 2 reference points. And like I said earlier, I'm going to try to... I know I've got a lot of the shortcut keys memorized, and I kind of fire them off here without saying anything. To add a reference point, you can do it many different ways. Clicking on the missions and reference points here and choosing add a reference point. You can hit Control Insert, or the other way I do it is hold down Control and right-click on the map. You can choose add reference point there as well. You can also define it as a rectangle or a circle, whichever way you'd like. Now, before we can choose those 2 reference points, we need to drop the other ones that are pre-selected. Let's deselect all reference points and then choose these 2. To add a new mission, I'm going to call this Tanker Colombia. We're going to make it a support mission. And it will be active immediately. Turn off the 1/3 rule. And I really think that's all we need to do. Let's go back to our mission, or sorry, our airfields here in Panama. Find our KC-46s. We've got 2 that are immediately available. Let's get those, both of those up. We've got 2 that are going to be ready in 3 hours to relieve them. So we're going to say, assign all of these to Tanker Columbia. And then actually we're going to go back into the mission and change the minimum requirements to keeping 2 on station at all times. So we should always have 2 tankers on that station, as long as we have 2 available. All right, so that's the tanker track taken care of. Maybe we'll move it a little bit closer. A little bit closer. Actually, let's move it more this way. I kind of want it central between the 2 cities because I'm going to have fighters patrolling this entire border area, kind of covering this. Let's keep it a bit further south. Equidistant between the 2 if we can kind of manage that. Alrighty. Next, let's add another reference point here, here, there. Yeah, we're going to do this in two separate missions. Let's drop deselect all of our reference points, and we're going to select these 5. Whoa. Did I only get those 5? I think I did. Let's zoom in here. Whoa. Oh my goodness, where'd we go? Okay, we only have these 5 reference points selected. Perfect. Add a new mission. This is the city of Cucuta. Make it an anti-air warfare patrol. Now, first of all, did I spell the name of the city wrong? No, I did not. Off to a great start. All right, now we do see that our reference points are creating quite the weird-looking patrol zone. Let's fix that by reordering them here. Let's see if I can get this on the screen at the same time. Wrong way. There we are. Okay, so here's our reference points. We're just going to reorder them until everything is... There we are. That's what we want to see. So here's our patrol zone. I'm not going to create a prosecution area. I'm just going to create the patrol zone for our planes to sit in, and then manually I'll be taking control of the aircraft as enemy forces ingress, so I can kind of micromanage and keep our forces alive. As the briefing said, one of our goals here is to make sure we lose as few units as possible, which means instead of allowing our aircraft to automatically engage and prosecute contacts as they see fit, I'm going to try to be keeping an eye on that manually. Okay, so we've got our patrol zone set up for Cucuta. Turning up the 1/3 rule and try to keep, I don't know, 2. Let's try to keep 4 units on station at all times. Investigate outside of patrol area. No. Investigate within weapons range. Yes. Let's go down to 2. All right, so from this airbase here at Tocumen, we've got 2 Strike Eagles that are available to us, 6 AMRAAMs each, and 2 getting ready in 3 hours. Ideally, I like to have my patrol zones kind of homogeneous based on aircraft type, because as you saw in the mission editor, the amount of aircraft that you want to stay on station is per aircraft type. So if I only have Strike Eagles, for example, on that patrol, then I only have 2 Strike Eagles in that mission at all times. If I have say 6 Strike Eagles assigned, 6 Falcons assigned, 6 Hornets assigned, then I'll have two Eagles, 2 Hornets, and 2 Falcons flying at all times. And that's not necessarily what I want to see happen. Thank you for the resub, Pixel 464. 5 months in a row, much appreciated. Alrighty, so let's just assign these 2 Strike Eagles to the upper air war patrol zone at Kakuta. I really have nothing else here that works right now. We'll assign these 2 as well. They'll be ready in 3 hours. Double checking the mission. 2 units of each class on station. Yes, that will work perfectly. They are allowed to tank. Let's configure the tanking. Start looking for tanker when down to 40% emission fuel. One of my biggest pet peeves with tankers is the fact that right when I need my fighters, they're always in the process of just moving around and looking for fuel. So this is kind of a place where you can tweak the tanker settings. I don't want them looking for fuel too early because they are going to be running fairly dry, as there's quite a gap between their home base, their patrol area, and the tanker track. So at 40% emission fuel, they can start looking around for tankers. That should be okay. Should help them stay on station a tiny bit longer. Hopefully be a bit more useful to us while we're there too. Hello, Van Bishop. Welcome to the stream. All right, so that's one anti-air warfare patrol setup. Let's set up another. First off, we're going to deselect all reference points. And then we're going to do this one a bit easier. Use the easy button. We're going to use the define area rectangle. Bingo. 4 points selected, 4 points created in a nice rectangular shape. I'm going to rearrange them a little bit here, so we have a shape that I appreciate a bit more. Add a new mission. The biggest question, how do you spell the city name? Aroka. Okay. Going to be a patrol, anti-air warfare patrol. Keep 2 on station. No 1/3 rule. We'll just investigate contacts within weapons range. Yet again, we're going to say tankers, wait for 40% fuel before you start looking. And that should be good enough. Now all we have to do is assign some aircraft to that patrol. At Howard Air Force Base, we have a lot of options. Our best option are probably the Raptors, not only from a force perspective, but also from a range perspective. They do have drop tanks. Actually curious, what is their range with this loadout? Let's take a look here. Roughly 250 minutes on station with 200 nautical mile cap. So we can assume perhaps 600 to 800 nautical miles is their round trip range. I'm guessing. Either way, let's assign these 4 Raptors to the anti-air warfare patrol at Aroka. We're also going to assign these 6 Lightning. Okay, so that means that at the second anti-air warfare patrol that we just set up for Aroka, we will have on station at all times 2 Raptors and 2 F-35s with plenty in reserve to fill in the gaps. Actually, what we're also going to do, we're going to take these F-15Cs, we're going to assign all of these. We're going to assign 4 of them. Let's assign 4 of them. 1 through 4. We'll assign these guys to the Kakuta mission as well. So we'll have 2 Strike Eagles and 2 F-15Cs on station. Most importantly, kind of why I wanted to get these guys on station is because they have the Legion pod. I don't think the Strike Eagles had a similar loadout. Well, they've got the Sniper pod actually, so that's not so bad. They have the same visual ability. Again, I'm worried about fighting stealth aircraft. So having that visual ability is definitely not a bad thing to have on our Eagles. Alrighty. So that is our defense of this area here. We're not going to worry about any strike aircraft just yet. We haven't seen anything spawn in. We've only moved the clock forward by 1 second. Nothing has spawned in, but we're going to leave that for now. What else do we need to do? Well, we should probably launch some form of patrol in this area. That's going to include our Hawkeyes / P8 Poseidons from Puerto Rico. Puerto AW will be a support mission. And again, we're going to turn off the 1/3 rule. We're going to say keep one of each class on station at all times. And we're just going to move these reference points around so it's a bit more of a line. A difference between a patrol and a support mission is that a patrol is kind of a box where they will patrol inside of that box at seemingly random angles. With a support mission, it's effectively a track. And they just keep going back and forth on the same track the entire time. That should be decent. Keep them nice and close to the Patriot battery in case they need quick anti-air support. Let's find our aircraft here. We don't want our B1s. We don't want our P8s either. Those are the anti-submarine warfare equipped P8s. We want, here they are. Put, oops. Alrighty. Looks like there's a pre-engaged mission already. Let's take a quick look here. Friar Oakenshield, thank you again for the 4 bits. Thank you, sir. So let's find out where this mission is. EAWC. Ah, it's already in the same sort of area. It looks like the scenario designer had the same brilliant idea as I did. Now we're going to delete these reference points that I've created because they're not needed. And we're going to edit the mission. And we're going to edit the mission and see about adding in our Poseidons. Again, those are the anti-submarine variants. Let's go with the maritime surveillance aircraft. Assign them to the mission. EAWC. Verify that we have 1/3 rule is set. That should be good enough for only having 2 Poseidons there. One will be in the air, one will be on the ground. Don't actually have enough for the 1/3 rule to satisfy its requirements there, but that's fine. It should work out with 2 aircraft just a-okay. Get those guys in the air, and what we should as well do, well, to be honest with you, I'm a little leery what's in this area. What I would like to do is send my anti-submarine equipped P8s this way towards my surface action group and kind of sanitize the sea that's over here and see what they can see underwater. But I don't really have I don't have any assurance that this area is ready to be flown over without any danger. So we need to take care of that danger. We need to see what's out there. We're going to aggressively patrol with our Hawkeye. He's already heading this way. We're also going to find the Ronald Reagan here. And we're going to manually do some aggressive scouting. Manually, aggressively scout. And take 4 AMRAAM-D heavy loadout Hornets, Super Hornets, launch them as a group, and we'll manually take care of them once they launch. All right, so what have we done? We have set up a tanker track in Colombia. We have set up 2 airborne patrols, one over Caruca and one over Aroca, the 2 cities that we need to be defending against Russian and Venezuelan aggression, both in the air and on the ground. We have a Hawkeye that's over Caruca right now. Kakuta, sorry. Looks like it is flying right along the border, which has me a little nervous. I mean, we've already talked about the fact that the SAM network of Colombia is very poor. There's really nothing there to help us, and all of our anti-air warfare assets are 500 nautical miles away. So we're going to take this this Hawkeye, and we're going to say, come this way, and just stay safe. Don't be a hero. Radar range still covers pretty much half of Venezuela, so I'm pretty happy with pushing it back a little bit into Colombia to give it some safe space until our Raptors and our F-35s can get on station. All right, so that's what we've got going here. We've got our P-8 Poseidon being loaded up into the air for ELINT tracking over on this track here. We still have a little bit of a gap here, but we're going to cover this off by aggressively scouting with some Super Hornets and seeing what we can find. All right, so enough talking. It's been an hour and a half of talking, setting this up, going through the order of battle, and giving you a good preview of what the American and the Colombian side are capable of. Let's hit the clock here and move forward and see what we can find in the first, I don't know, 30 minutes to an hour of this scenario. Again, this is a preview of the upcoming Command Live DLC called The King of the Border. Our goal today is not to play it through to completion. Our goal today is to give you a fair overview of what's happening on both sides and hopefully interest you in what's coming down the pipe. So, 1 second time compression. And immediately we've got some undersea contacts. And actually, I always forget to do this. The sounds in this game come up very loud. Let me lower these for you. You don't blow out your eardrums. Make sure I think I've got everything all set there. Okay, let me know if this is too loud or too quiet. If you can't hear the game sounds, or if you can and they're way too loud, let me know, please. All right, so we have 3 goblins, 3 undersea contacts, unknown as to what they are presently. What are our sea wolves doing? They're heading east. Jimmy Carter is heading east, and the Hawaii is heading northeast. I've already confirmed one of these is biological contact. This one is descending. It's hard to see through the yellow line there. Let me get a bit closer. It's descending. You don't usually see tunas or orcas or shark groups or dolphin groups descend. So I'm guessing this guy's probably an enemy contact. Take a ranging on it. 109 nautical miles. From the carrier group, let's launch a very capable anti-submarine warfare equipped Seahawk. Get that in the air, send it over here to investigate. Also nose the USS Jimmy Carter in towards it. My fear is that with a side profile, whatever this is, most likely an enemy submarine will have much easier time finding the USS Jimmy Carter if it's giving a side-on profile than a nose-on profile. Thank you for the follow, Checker33. Welcome to the stream. Alrighty, so that is the undersea component at the moment. We've got a unknown surface contact behind us. Only going at 1 knot. 2 of them. 1 to the northwest, 1 to the southwest. Not too worried about them just yet, though. My Hawkeye is diving. Why is my Hawkeye diving? My concern with the Hawkeye is that I want it at max altitude, so it maximizes its radar coverage. Let's put him back up to maximum altitude. All right, our aggressively scouting Hornets have launched from the Ronald Reagan. Let's go and aggressively scout. Radar's on. A convergence zone contact day is what you're saying? Yeah, you're most likely right. Meaning it could very well be much closer than it looks here. Alright, so things are just underway. I'm going to move up to 5-second time compression. Our Hawkeye that's over Columbia is also descending. Let's get him up higher. Again, I want to maximize his radar coverage. Oh, it's been identified as a biological contact as well. That was unexpected. Alright. Then we'll move Jimmy off into the direction of this goblin. We still have not got any information on what this is, depth, speed, anything like that. So hopefully that will help us identify what it is, or at least where it is, what it could be. These poor biologics running at 374 feet under the sea. They must have quite the air supply. All right, we can hear the launches of our Strike Eagles and our Raptors and our F-35s heading towards their anti-air border patrol zones at the 2 cities in Colombia on the border. Waiting for my helicopter to take off here. Still launching, it looks like. Oh, here it is. Taking off right now. 1 second. It's taking off. There she is. I'm going to manually vector her up this way. Alrighty, we're starting to get some enemy air contacts. Looks like they're not as hostile, but I think it's safe to say we have not heard anything but civilian contacts or civilian air traffic or anything like that. And these are running at fairly consistent high speed and high altitude, consistent with military air. So we're going to assume hostility. The Colombians are launching some of their Kafirs, their anti-air warfare equipped Kafirs most likely. Again, only armed with the infrared missiles, so very short ranged. Got some Su-30 Mark IIs being launched by, I'm presuming the Colombian, or the Venezuelan forces, sorry. Taking a quick look at the database entry here for what we're up against, it is indeed Venezuelan. And they do indeed have the ability to, well, they certainly do outclass what we have on the Colombian side for sure. They do have radar homing missiles. They do have semi-active radar homing missiles, range of 70 nautical miles or 45 nautical miles at best. So, these darn Kafirs, which are rushing into battle before I can get there to help them, are going to be thoroughly outclassed by whatever these Su-30s are bringing to battle. They need to wait. Wait for me. Big Brother's coming. Yeah, those Su-30s, they probably have a pretty decent meal on their plate right now. Some aircraft in the middle of nowhere. Probably carrier aircraft, which means maybe the Kuznetsov is here. Maybe. Alright, so our patrols are out towards the cities on the border. Got our F-15 Strike Eagles, F-22 Raptors, F-35 Lightning. There's another mission that was pre-baked into the scenario here, the EAW mission. Where is that? There it is right there. So we got some, we have some growlers heading out from Panama onto this track as well. Massive launches from the Colombians. More fears. Looks like they are on a... Well, they're on an offensive track, engaged against anti-air contacts. There's some Super Tucanos up as well. The entire weight of the Colombian forces is being leveraged against, well, against a much superior foe, and we are far too far away to effect a response at the moment. Let's get these Raptors super cruising. At least get them there as fast as they can. I do believe... Yeah, let's get the F-35s moving faster too. Looks like we're going to need to do some action do some aggressive patrolling much sooner than anticipated. All right, Jimmy Carter is heading towards the unknown contact. The helicopter that was launched from the Reagan is still on its way, making best speed out that way. We have some MiG-29s, which I believe is the naval variant. Indeed it is. MiG-29Ks. So we can almost, without a doubt, say in this area here, that's where the Kuznetsov is. Got our P8s are up. Our airborne early warning track as well is up. Oh. Alrighty, let's clear up some of the map here. Don't care about underwater sensors, underwater weapons, even land weapons at this point in time are not that important. Or surface search radars. I do like to know the air sensors and the air warfare ranges of weapons, so I tend to leave those on mainly. Ooh, at Oroka we've got some unknown ground contacts. Mobile units that are moving towards the border. And mark these as hostile. Let's mark them as hostile. Can I tell my artillery to attack? Let's see here. Get them, boys. Yes, yes, yes. Look at them scatter. Look at them scatter. I guess you could call this preemptive defense. We are certainly preemptively defending the border aggressively. We have identified a ship right off the coast, right off the northern coast of Venezuela. MRK Bunyan? Boyan? Bunyan. My Russian is not my primary language, obviously. MRK Boyan, which is a surface combatant of the fast guided missile patrol craft variant. Not necessarily a lot that we have to worry about aside from, well, just a little bit, these 200 nautical mile ranged anti-surface missiles. Surface ship targeting only, if I did read correctly. Yeah, surface ships. Yeah, a little bit of a threat, but nothing we can't deal with. Steragushi behind the Boyan. Bit bigger of a ship, a guided missile frigate. Again, something that we probably have to be pretty aware of, at least in terms of putting our surface fleet into this range, 200 nautical mile range here. Our MLRSs are still firing. We're getting some hits. We're missing the mechanized infantry platoon. Doing a little bit of damage, not a lot though. Hey, Robbie, thanks for coming out. Glad you had a chance to answer some questions. Robbie, of course, is the scenario designer. Sounds like he has to leave us now. Thank you, Robbie, for coming out. Much appreciated. And thank you for the scenario. It's looking like it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, we got some hits. Kinda. An alternative warhead has malfunctioned twice in a row. Well, our MLRSs didn't do a lot of damage there, actually. Very curious. Let's take a quick sneak peek at the scoring here. What did we kill? We killed... Yeah, we actually got a few things. 18 infantry fighting vehicles. We will take it. We will take it. Now, unfortunately, we are now out of ammunition. So our MLRSs cannot rejoin the battle. Up north here at Kukuda, we do not actually have any enemy ground forces spotted yet. But I would assume, if I'm guessing correctly, the Super Tucanos that are armed for AA are not going to help us. Are you going to help us? There's bound to be some ground attack variants of the Super Tucano or the Kafir that are on their way in to do something about these. They mark these as hostile too, that's pretty much guaranteed. Again, the flankers are on their way in to take on the Kafirs that have violated the border. The sovereign areas of Venezuela has been violated. We've got an A-50 mainstay airborne early warning aircraft that has violated the northern border of Colombia, being attacked by a single Kafir interceptor. Dr. Zeus? No. Dr. Zaius. Dr. Zaius, that's how you say it. I do not have any fancy Dr. Zeus rhymes to rhyme off, but I'm most certainly not Dr. Zeus, because I cannot rhyme very well at all. The audio is breaking up. Audio is breaking up, eh? Is it breaking up for anybody else? Let me see what's eating up my, see if there's something that's eating up my CPU here. Command is eating up my CPU. Right, maybe we will lower down the compression. Maybe that'll help us. I think the only thing that's eating my CPU is command right now. Everything else seems to be fine. Let me know if that helped the audio at all. I moved it on 2-second time compression. All right, so the first action of the day, aside from the MLRS attack, the Russian early warning aircraft is on its way to certain death. That's all right, Edgar. I've been called many, many things, some which sound like Dr. Zeus, some which do not. It's when I picked this name for my online activities like 25 years ago, I should have picked something a bit more easier to say. But hindsight being 2020 and all. There we go. The A-50 has been shut down. The Colombians have their first major victory of the day. That being said, my Raptors are still way out of position, as are my line. We're going to have a fuel problem soon too. Even though we've got tankers on their way in behind us, it tells me here in the readout that we've got only 30 minutes before we get bingo fuel. Time to our current waypoint is 19 minutes. We'll have 10 minutes on station before we have to go refuel, which is not great. Yeah, it's definitely not Dr. Zeus. All right, taking a look up north here. We still don't know what this Dublin contact is. We see a lot of aircraft kind of in this area, as I was fearing. Looks like the Russians have, with their surface fleet and their carrier specifically, they've split our forces between Puerto Rico and Central America. That's interesting, because to support any strike on Ochinco Island, which is one of our goals eventually, this little island right here, or Chilla, sorry, not Ochinco. On our Chilla on this airbase, all we have at Puerto Rico is probably going to be on its own to support and affect a result there. We're not going to be able to support it very well from the Ronald Reagan. Let's pause for a sec here. We have identified the Admiral Kuznetsov. So we have found the enemy carrier. Right here. Again, as feared, probably right in this area. Effectively cutting our forces in half. So if we were to play this through, which of course we're not, we're just doing a preview of the American side and the Russian side shortly, which I actually need to start on very soon because I can only stream for another hour or so. What we're seeing here, and actually maybe we'll just pause it here and summarize where we're at, and then we'll move on to the Russian side. Simply because we're actually running out of time. I've only got an hour left. And it took us about an hour to get through the order of battle for the Americans, so I want to do the same for the Russians if we can. How many of those Russian aircraft will crash land back on the Kuznetsov? I don't know. But I am hopeful that Kuznetsov will have mechanical failure, just to be honest with you. But either way, the Russians have effectively split our forces in half. Our forces on Puerto Rico are effectively on their own on their attack for Orchila Island, where the nuclear-capable Tu-60s are, 160s are. Now, there's a positive side to this as well. We have a ton of LRASMs and B-1 capable attack bombers, 24 LRASMs on each of the B1s. We can certainly overload most of the defenses that are around this carrier from the backside as well as from the front side with whatever's on the Ronald Reagan. So you can look at it in two ways. We've got our forces split down the middle by the Russians, but they're also surrounded by us. So if we were to play this a bit further through, first of all, I think we're going to have some major losses around these cities, simply because my air power cannot get there fast enough. I mean, we're cruising as fast as we can with these F-22s, and they're simply not going to be there in time to stop these flankers from at least having their way with the Colombian Air Force for a little bit, at the very least. And I do think, moving forward, we would have definitely a large struggle against the carrier force, and then whatever air defenses are defending the coast as well, because not only are there aircraft, I'm assuming there's got to be some long-range air defense somewhere here as well. I don't see it on the board. SA-23. Yeah, so there's some further inland, but I'm expecting for sure to have something especially out at Orchila Air Base, because that's where their nuclear capable bombers are. They'd be silly not to defend that with something capable like an S-300 or even an S-400. Can you imagine, though, an S-400 on this island kind of covering all the way out to here? That would be a tough nut to crack. Yeah, definitely. Kuznetsov, I'm expecting when this releases and people start playing the American side, that the Kuznetsov, if it doesn't sink in the Caribbean, they will definitely have to do some repairs on it back in dry dock, either from battle damage or just from sailing around in the sea. All right, so that's the American side. Hopefully that was a good enough preview for everybody on the forces that are available to and what to expect in the first, 15 minutes of the gameplay. Hopefully that was a good enough preview there for you. We've got about an hour left in the stream. I've got a hard cut at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're going to take a quick break right now, maybe a 3-minute break so I can get up and stretch my legs. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to restart the scenario as the Russians, take a look at what the Russians have available to them. And then if we have time, run the clock forward a tiny bit as well to see how that progresses initially. So let me put up a text notification here, just to say back in 3 minutes. And then, okay, there we are. So I'll be back in 3 minutes, guys. Chill out, have a drink, and I'll be right back and we'll start the Russian side of the scenario. BRB. All right, everybody. So I am back. Hopefully everyone's doing well still. We've got about an hour left in the stream here before I have a hard cut and have to leave us. So we're going to swap now from the American side over to the Russian side. Thank you for the follow, Matalot2001. Yeah, stretching is a great idea. This also refilling water and reminding your body that, hey, you're not sitting down for 3 hours in a row is a nice thing to do as well. There's always the danger when you're a streamer. There's always the danger of just forgetting to take care of, the water thing and the stretching thing. And once you're done a 4 or 5 hour stream without moving, man, oh man, let me tell you, your body makes you pay. Especially as you get older, you can't do this. I used to be able to sit down for 12 hours a day and play games, that kind of thing, and those were many years ago. Got to take care of the body these days and make sure you stretch those legs and drink that water. This has been a great reminder for all of us who are getting older to stretch and drink water. All right, guys. Let's move on here to the Russian side. I'm going to quickly reread the scenario overview here, as most people who are here now were not with us when we started. This is, of course, a preview of the most recently announced Command Live DLC called King of the Border, which is not yet released. It's still in progress of being created. So what you see today is not necessarily going to be the final product. There could be some changes between now and release. But either way, we're going to give you a preview of what's coming down the pipe to help you understand what the scenario is about. So reading from the scenario briefing here, it is King of the Border 2019 in October of 2019, so slightly in the future from where we're at currently in January. It's a fully difficult and highly complex scenario. And the briefing says, the crisis that has enveloped Venezuela since 2013 has reached boiling point. The government of Caracas has made assertions on several occasions that the reason for this humanitarian catastrophe is the constant interference of the United States of America and its puppets in the region conspiring to stop the glorious Bolivarian revolution started by Hugo Chavez. These suspicions have been reinforced by the blooming relationship between Colombia and NATO, culminating in 2015 in a joint military operation against maritime piracy. Recently, the situation has further escalated to two Colombian border towns of Cucuta and Aroca, which have been the focus of several skirmishes between soldiers wearing the uniform of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces of Venezuela and local Colombian border troops. Claiming the episode is a machination of Washington to destroy the revolution, Venezuela has asked Russia for support, offering the Caribbean island of Orchila as a primary outpost. Moscow, eager to expand its political influence in South America, agreed immediately and has dispatched a joint expeditionary force in aid of its new ally. The United States has declared its support for Bogota, promising protection from aggression by any means, and have put their forces in Panama and Puerto Rico on the highest alert. All right, so we've seen this from the American side, the Colombian and American side, I should say, and we're going to look at it now from the Russian side. Thank you for the follow, Rick402. Alrighty, so the situation is pretty similar to what we read about before, but specifically for the Russian forces here, riots have erupted at the two cities Cucuta and Aroca, and it's not clear who fired first, but the ground forces have been fighting for several days in bloody conflict. Putin has declared 2 days ago that the behavior of the Colombian army is inadmissible and that it plans to intervene with an iron fist. We know that the USA is coming to defense of Colombia, so we have to support Venezuela, helping in its airspace and taking control of the waters. All right. So pretty much the same briefing for Russia as we had with the US, but keep in mind this is a work in progress, so I'm sure this will be changed around and tightened up with the specific stories for both sides as the scenario closes on release. For now, though, what we need to know is our friendly forces are exactly what we saw before. We've got some Su-30 and Mark II flankers, MiG-29Ks, F-16 Falcons, MiG-31s, Su-35s, and the vaunted Su-57 stealth fighter. Our naval force consists of the Kuznetsov fleet, with the Admiral Kuznetsov, of course, the infamous, Russian, the only Russian carrier currently available. Although you could probably debate that based on the amount it's been in the news recently with mechanical failures and such. But she is currently in this mission and fully functional, with a Russian patrol fleet as well as a Russian combat group. So 3 different naval forces, just like the American forces had, plus we've got 5 Russian submarines to help us as well. Venezuela has given us La Chinita Airport and Orchila Air Base, where we have some support aircraft available. Enemy forces, of course, we got B-1Bs, F-35s, F-15s, F-16s, F-18s, Raptors, Hawkeyes, Sentries, Poseidons, and Growlers. We're expecting frigates, aircraft carriers, and submarines of the Los Angeles class. Our mission is to support Venezuela, defending its facilities and its air force, defend the 2 Tu-160 Blackjack nuclear bombers and facilities on the island of Orchila, and avoid losses as much as possible while eliminating the U.S. naval forces and Colombian Air Force. All right, so very, very similar to what we just seen on the American side. And, well, let's see what we're up against here with all the Russian forces. So, of course, we have nothing in any of the islands here, but I'm curious about the friendly forces here in Cuba. Are there any? Oh, we've got 20 aircraft. This is situated on Cuba, and this is not marked with an A, so we can assume these are friendly forces that we can use. MiG-29 Fulcrums and MiG-23 Floggers, all armed with anti-air warfare loadouts. Being further north, Cuban Air Defense, which has multiple SAM groups associated with it. No other airfields, though, with aircraft that we can use. Just Manzanillo here in the southwest corner. Oh, yep, thank you. Thank you. Forgot about that. Much appreciated. We have been back for more than 3 minutes, so sorry about that, guys. Now, looking at the Russian forces, we have quite a lot of things to go through here. Let's start at the north and work our way down. So the Russian combatant group consists of 3 surface boats. Now, you'll have to forgive me, I'm not too familiar with Russian military weaponry in the sense that all these SAN 21s, 22s, 24s, 27s, I'm not exactly sure what each of them are capable of, so I'm just going to take a quick look through here and see what kind of capabilities these surface combatants have. Looks like from the Growler standpoint, the SAN 21Ds, 65 nautical mile range with aircraft, helicopters, and missiles being its primary target, so this is an anti-air warfare equivalent. SA-22s, the Greyhound, 10 nautical mile range. Again, point defense, anti-air warfare. SA-24s. Looks like, again, anti-air warfare, range of 3 nautical miles, very short point defenses. We got some Sizzlers, 200 nautical mile range. Capable of attacking surface ships, all right. Now we know, based on the previous scenario, that the enemy carrier group's roughly in this area. 200 nautical miles gets us out to this red circle here. So we're actually very close to having an effect on their carrier group. It wouldn't take more than a few hours in game time going at flank speed to get within range, I think. And we've got some regular old gun-based ammunition. Machine guns, chaff flares, anti-torpedo torpedoes, depth charges, and that's really it. All right, so the main focus of the Russian combat group up north here, I would suggest, is to kind of rush the Ronald Reagan when it's spotted and fire off 24 SS N-27 Sizzlers. What is the maximum speed? Just curious. 530 knots, so it's roughly equivalent to the same speed as a Tomahawk, for example. Not hypersonic by any means. Moving further south, we have the Admiral Kuznetsov fleet, which gives us 32 aircraft, 29 available to us. Su-33 Flanker Ds, of course, being our main, one of our main attack variants here. We've got 5 set up as anti-air warfare capable. Nothing too amazing at the moment in terms of weaponry. I know there's an AA-13 which has an amazing 160 nautical mile range. I'm not seeing these on those planes. We do have the AA-10 Alamo, which is a semi-active radar homing missile with a range of 45 nautical miles. Again, if you remember back to the beginning, we saw the AMRAAM, the D variant on our American forces, had a range of about 70 to 75 nautical miles, and it's fully active radar homing. So a huge advantage there based on this loadout. Let's just see if we have any other options on the Russians, and no, we do not. It's AA-10s or bust. Thank you for the follow, Zoner52. Welcome to the stream, hope you're enjoying. We also do have some general purpose bombs, looks like Fab 500s, which are, well, you got to be right over the target to hit something, 1 nautical mile range. Capable of hitting surface, ships, land structures, mobile units, and runways. Not that impressive, to be honest with you. Moving on to the MiG-29Ks. Okay, here we see some more variety in the weapons, more of what I was looking for. On the MiG-29Ks, we have the AA-12 Adder. Range of 60 nautical miles, so we're getting a bit more competitive with the AMRAAM D variant. She is mid-course plus active radar homing terminal guidance, so very similar to the AMRAAM as well, in that you can kind of fire and forget if you have to. The downside to the semi-active radar homing missiles that we were seeing on the Su-33s, of course, is that once you force the firing aircraft to turn out of its radar cone, the semi-active radar homing missiles kind of drop off into the ocean because they can't track any longer. They don't have that ability in and of themselves, whereas the AA-12 Adder that we're seeing here does have that ability to home based on last known position and then its own active radar homing seeker. So very similar to how the AMRAAM works, very much a step up and much harder to defeat if you're under attack by these missiles. Alrighty. So that's a bit more of a formidable foe. Let's just take a quick look at what we can put on here. We've got a standard and a heavy cap variety of the AA-12 Adder loadout, which we've already looked at. We've got Kryptons, which are anti-surface or anti-radiation missiles. We have kayaks. What are they? 140 nautical mile range, active and passive radar seekers with the ability to hit land structures, runways, and surface ships. Medium range subsonic air launch turbojet powered solid fuel anti-ship missile. All right, so very capable against the American ships that we're going to find in the Caribbean Sea here. A whole bunch of other weaponry that we're probably not going to use. We do have some pre-arranged loadouts here for some of our MiG-29s. 4 Krypton A's, which are the anti-surface variety of weapon, and then a bunch of dumb bomb variety down below as well, with 4 Fab 250s and 2 Fab 500s. Again, I think I might consider changing them, because I much prefer something that's got a bit of a standoff range. Oh. Something with a bit of standoff range to it. Let's, we have no kayak armed. Let's go with a kayak armed set of 6 MiG-29s. We know there's a carrier out there. We know there's a lot of air defense on the sea in front of that carrier. We're going to need all the help we can get to break through and bust down that defense. All right, we got our regular helicopter loadout, some with maritime surveillance capabilities, some with anti-submarine warfare capabilities. It's all pretty standard. Looking at the surface component of the Admiral Kuznetsov's group, plenty of anti-air warfare equipped missiles, point defense mainly, with these SA-11s. 40 nautical mile range on these guys, on these Grizzly anti-air warfare missiles, aircraft, helicopter, surface ships, and guided missiles and bombs. Pretty similar to what we were seeing on the previous group. Just want to see what our maximum range is on our air defense here. That is certainly an attack weapon. 300 nautical mile range on the shipwreck missile. Looks like something out of a Thunderbirds show from the 60s. Surface ship only attack, range of 300 nautical miles. So effectively, if we can find the Reagan, we're almost covering that with the shipwreck range right now. Again, we've got Sizzlers. We saw those earlier, 200 nautical mile range on those. just like our group up north. So we have some synergy here between our two, between our northern fleet and our Kuznetsov group. Expecting to see the Reagan roughly here. And again, if we push forward maybe 100 nautical miles at flank speed, give or take an hour or two in game time, we have quite the ability to attack that carrier with pretty much all of our weaponry. So I'm liking that, at least from the Russian side, I'm liking that. Down south here, we've got the Russian patrol fleet, a smaller class of vessels. We saw these from the American side earlier on, so I won't spend too much time on these. Again, we've got 8 Sizzlers, we've got Switchblades, which again are anti-ship missiles, 80 nautical mile in range. A lesser capability on this group, but certainly not something that is to be trifled with. We're going to have effectively the ability to have a 3-pronged attack from the north, from the middle, and from the south against whatever's here. And we know that's the USS Ronald Reagan, and we know that we have the ability to at least add in a few more planes to the threat as well, with some of the standoff missiles that we're currently arming. So from a Russian standpoint, I'm liking how we're set up here. I'm liking the capabilities of our missiles, and I'm liking the ability of all of this to be screened by 1, 2, 3 submarines in front of us here. In fact, there's a Kula submarine. I would hazard a guess this is very close to where the enemy carrier group is, where the enemy submarine screen is at the very least. Now, we were told in the American briefing that we were up against Oscars. And we see here 1, 2, 3 Oscar 2s. And on both ends of the submarine formation, going left to right, we've got an Akula and an Akula. So not exactly accurate information. But we will certainly use that. As I do enjoy the Akula, I believe it's one of the fastest submarines that we have access to. Correct me if I'm wrong there. 35 knots. Likes to go very, very deep and go very, very fast. I kind of really like her. Looking at what we have available to us, we've got short-range anti-air warfare weapons. We've got torpedoes. We have a Stallion, 54 nautical mile range, anti-submarine, capable. Valid target is submarine. This is quite the homewrecker. And what is the maximum speed of this weapon? 1,010 knots. Rocket boosted. All right, so if we ever get a submarine contact that's about 50 kilometers away, 50 nautical miles away, we can certainly reach out and touch somebody, no problem. No problem. Pretty much the same loadout on our Oscar 2s as well. Got a few shipwreck missiles there. We saw those on the surface variants, or surface fleets earlier. 300 nautical mile range. Yeah, so we're looking pretty offensively capable. All we need is some decent contacts, some solid targeting information before we can ruin someone's day. Now, just curious here, we've got 24 shipwrecks on the Oscar. We have... You are anti-submarine as well, yeah. So the Akulas don't actually have the ability to reach out and touch a surface target like the Oscars do. But of course, they're probably more for point defense in front of the more vulnerable Oscars. So we've got 72 shipwrecks on the subgroup. We've got 8 Sizzlers there, 12 shipwrecks, 16 Sizzlers, and up top here, 24 Sizzlers. So roughly, between our shipwreck stock and our Sizzler stock, which of course has a 200 to 300 nautical mile range for attacking surface ships, we've roughly got about 100 missiles primed and ready to go. And that's not even considering the fact that we've got plenty of aircraft available to us that are either ready to go, we're in the process of getting ready to go with some more surface-attacked weaponry as well. All right. So that's a quick look at the Russians here. Just let me take a swig of water, and we'll move on with the Air Forces. Trying to rush through here a little bit. We're down to about 45 minutes left on the stream. I do have a hard cutoff at 4 p.m. And my goal for today is to just preview the Command Live DLC for you that's coming out. Date unknown in the future. It's been announced, but it hasn't been, a release date has not been set. So the goal here is to preview it and not spoil much for you, but to give you a rundown of both sides and what you can look forward to when the DLC does eventually drop. So we'll go through the Air Forces here, and then we'll run the clock forward a little bit, set up some missions, run the clock forward, and see if we can't get a little bit of action before we have to call it to an end here. We've looked at the surface forces, we've looked at the carrier forces, we've looked at the Cuban friendly forces. Looks like it's not our air base, of course, it's a Cuban air base, but we do have perfectly controllable, possibly perfectly controllable aircraft here. I don't know if they're pre-assigned to a mission. Let's take a look at that mission. No, we don't see that mission. Okay, so I was probably wrong about that then, that these are not aircraft that we can actually use. They're probably Cuban, and they are out of our realm of control. Looking down here at the Venezuelan area, we've got plenty of toys to play with. Now, I was bemoaning the fact that Colombia doesn't really have an air defense network. Looking here at the Russian and the Venezuelan capabilities on the ground, we have some pretty nice units. We've got an S-300 with which I do believe has a nice 80 nautical mile range on it. Let's see if I'm right on that. Yes, 80 nautical mile range on the anti-air defense capabilities of this Gladiator. We've got plenty of ground forces, Venezuelan army units, nothing that we can control. Everything is marked with an A. So unlike the American side, where we've actually got some artillery and some ranger units and some mechanized infantry units in the realm of Cucara and Arcuña. I'm butchering these city names. Sorry if anybody knows how to pronounce them, that I'm probably embarrassing myself with the pronunciation. Actually, let's move the clock forward 1 second here so I can actually see. Aroca, there we go. Aroca and Cucuta. That's what I was talking about. These are the two cities in question. We've got our land units here that are not actually ours. They're just allied Venezuelan units. Moving further inland, we have, again, pretty solid anti-air assets on the ground. Grizzlies, which have a range of roughly 30 nautical miles, if I'm not mistaken. 25, 27, yeah, roughly. Not point defense, but certainly cover a decent area of airspace around the air bases they're protecting. We have another S-300 back further inland, covering this whole area here. And looking up at the little island base, Ochillo. Or Chilla, sorry. We have, okay, a Pantsir. Very short range on those 10 nautical miles, so nothing to worry about too much. Another Pantsir. Here we go, the S-400. I figured there was going to be something here. There had to be something here to defend this island. Russia would be ridiculously short-sighted to put their nuclear-capable bombers on a tiny little target island like this without anything to defend them. So, of course, the S-400 is the latest and greatest. The range on this thing is 250 nautical miles. Absolutely ridiculous. Which, if we were to just quickly scroll back here and take a look, we're halfway to Puerto Rico. So whatever is coming in this way, if we have eyes on it, we can kill it. We looked at the LRASMs and the JASMs that were on the B1s. Roughly, this is the range. 250 nautical miles is the range. I can bring up the indicator here. Well, what we're looking at here is about 250 nautical miles from the edge of the circle all the way back to the island. JASMs has a 250 nautical mile range. LRASMs have about 400 nautical mile range. So we can launch them safely, but once they're detected, the S-400 has all day effectively to shoot them down. And if we position our defenses right, and by that I mean having something with infrared search and track kind of in this area to catch the low-level sea skimmers as they come in, we can quite easily take out that attack. The only thing that I'd be worried about in that case is the ability of them to overload our defenses. Of course, we saw the B1 carries 24 missiles, and of course our S-400 only has 80 missiles in total. So there is always that where we can possibly get overloaded and not fully be able to defend ourselves with only 80 missiles capable on the system. But either way, with the aircraft that are on the ground here, I'm sure we can set up some sort of meaningful defense that can keep our nuclear capable bombers in the game. Exactly, yeah, that's why the extended range weapons exist. And I do think if I was playing the American side and I knew what was here, which we do now, being able to overload that target with JASMs and LRASMs and Tomahawks, we have a ton of Tomahawks available to us. Being able to overload the target with those weapons gets us into that island. Effectively, that takes down all the air defenses that we need to worry about. Definitely, no threat to our shooters in that case. Our Tomahawk-laden ships, of course, are way too far away to worry about them. And our B-1s will never enter into the anti-air warfare range of that S-400. But still, it's a formidable opponent, and I don't think we actually saw that on the American side. So if I was playing the American side without any knowledge of what's on the Russian side, this would be a complete surprise to me. Complete surprise when it showed up. Alrighty. Let's take a look at what's on some of these air bases. Get a feel for the order of battle for the Russian side, and we'll see where that leads us. So here on forgetting all these names. Orchilla. There we go. Orchilla. I want to say like Pachinko or something, but that's completely wrong. That's Wheel of Fortune, not Command Modern Air Naval Operations. Here on Orchilla, we've got one airborne early warning A-50. Very discernible aircraft, very easy to see. We have two tankers, IL-96s. We've got our two nuclear-capable bombers, the Tu-160 Blackjacks. Huge-looking machines. Now, we can't use them. They're all under maintenance. We don't have the ability to arm them or fly them or anything. They're just parked there, effectively with a big target painted on their heads for the American side to destroy them. That being said, we also have some defense ability. Some very capable MiG-31 Foxhounds. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All 8 of them are available to us. 3 of them are readying in 6 hours. So we got 5 currently available. And the most important thing to note with this setup for these MiG-31s is that they have AA-13 arrows. Now we've looked at the AA-12. This is effectively an AMRAAM-like missile that has a 60 nautical mile range and is active radar homing. The AA-13 arrow. Well, let's take a quick look here. Range of 160 nautical miles. Let me say that again. It has a range of 160 nautical miles. Now, we looked at the AMRAAM-D, the best anti-air missile in the inventory for the American Armed Forces in this scenario, as far as we know, has 75 nautical mile range. So this AA-13 arrow outranges the AMRAAM 2.5 to 1. That is extremely, extremely powerful for the Russian side. So it has an active radar homing seeker. It's got mid-course updates available if there's a data link between itself and the shooter. It is a very capable weapon with a huge, absolutely huge range that can ruin our day very, very easily. So from an air warfare standpoint, having 4 of these on our MiG-31s really changes the outlook for warfare in this area. Now that's pretty cool, Robbie. Robbie's saying that the structures on the Orchilla Island are exact and in the real position. That's pretty awesome. What you're seeing here is a realistic recreation of Orchilla Air Base and the surrounding structures. All right, so what I was saying earlier as when we were the Americans was I was kind of bringing up a positive and a negative tactical point in that the USS Ronald Reagan's over in this area on the west side. We got Puerto Rico here on the right side, or on the right side, on the east side. And in the middle, we've got the Russian surface groups and the Russian carrier to kind of split our forces in the middle as the Americans. Now we can look at that 2 ways. We can look at that as a good thing where we surround the Russians and we can take them out from both sides equally easily. Or you can look at that in a bad manner and say that our forces are split and our Puerto Rican forces cannot support our Ronald Reagan forces, in the sense that the Orchilla Air Base needs to be taken out and we have to face down MiG-31s with an amazingly super anti-aircraft weaponry. So I don't know how I feel about that, because if I recall correctly, we don't have a lot of Raptors at Puerto Rico. I think we had 4, maybe? We don't have a lot of capability there in terms of numbers. And those MiG-31s, they can certainly reach out and touch somebody if the American player is not capable or not aware of what they're up against. Alrighty. So that's Orchilla. A few surprises there. Did I? Actually, I didn't finish Orchilla, did I? Let's go back. All right, yeah, there's 6 Su-35s set up with AA-12s. Certainly more of a normal foe for the American forces. Nothing too much to be worried about there. The MRAM-D, of course, does outrange the AA-12 by about 15 nautical miles, so there is a positive advantage there. At let's find the airfields that are not marked with an A, so we can look at the pure Russian forces. So Josifa Kameho International Airport, that's marked with an A as well. Let me see here. That's marked with an A. You're not. Okay, so La Chinita. That's right. The briefing, it said La Chinita and Orchilla Island Air Base were allowed for us to use. So we've only got 2 air bases where we can base Russian forces. Everything else here is probably out of our control, but we'll take a look at that in a second. Here at La Chinita, we've got some frog foots for ground attack, 4 of them. Some dumb bombs on them. Let's see if we have any better options. Dumb bombs and dumb bombs. Nope, that's it. So decent in ground attack, but they're not going to be able to stand off and hit anybody. Su-34s. Definite fighter bomber platform. We've got 5 of them available. Oh, we do have 5 available to us. 2 of them are in reserve that are unarmed. So if we wanted, we could ready arm them with... Well, it looks like we've got plenty of dumb bombs in store and nothing else. So it looks like they're going to be aerial warfare planes in this scenario. Looking down further, we've got an IL-22PP Porubstik. Elint and early warning. Fixed wing. And not much else in the information category for us to look at. 500 nautical mile Elint, no radars to speak of. Communications jammer, OECM, so maybe valuable in defense or attack as a jammer. Yeah, so Orchilla doesn't look bad from the 50,000 kilometers that we're looking at it from here, but give it 2 days or so in the scenario, and it's gonna look a little different. I think you're right there, Apache. Got some more airborne early warning aircraft that we saw foolishly fly into Venezuelan airspace in the last scenario. Decent range on these guys, if I recall correctly, about 350 nautical miles. Yeah, 350 on the radar for air search and surface search. Maybe what they're doing immediately here is launching these aircraft to try and find the Ronald Reagan at all costs. Maybe that's a strategy to consider. IL-38s for anti-submarine warfare. If anyone's played any anti-submarine games, they've seen a lot of these IL-38s. Lots of capability there. IL-96 tankers. And Tu-214 Elint aircraft. Special mission versions of the Tu-214 commercial transport aircraft developed under codename Project 141. Okay, it's fixed wing. It's got Elint capabilities. Let's see. Got some radar capabilities. Definitely cameras, 30 nautical miles in range, 500 nautical miles communications, and Elint abilities. Alrighty. So in terms of offensive forces, I'm not seeing a heck of a lot to help us with the say, for example, the Ronald Reagan, or even any of the surface action groups that we come across. We do have a little bit of defensive capabilities back at Orchilla. Everything else here, I do believe, is marked with an A, which means, if I'm not mistaken, is the purview of the AI. So we just take a quick look around here. We were told we might have some Su-57s, the pack fighter. I have not seen them, so we're just going to take a quick look around here and look at what the Venezuelans have. Got a bunch of Su-30s, Mk2s, AA-10 armed. Again, semi-active radar homing, not amazing anti-air weapons, but when you're up against Colombian Air Forces with, you know, what would we see? Kafirs and Tucanos with infrared missiles. Yeah, it's a huge advantage. Huge advantage. Only one aircraft here. It's a Boeing 707 tanker. Lieutenant Louis Naval Garcia. It's 10 aircraft. They're all F-16s. Sidewinder armed. Lizard LGBs. What are those? Mark 82. 4 nautical mile range. Surface ship, land structure, mobile units, and runways are capable of what it's capable of taking out. Our Falcons are only armed with Sidewinders. Do I have any other options? Not under my direct control, of course, so I cannot change the loadout of those. And then we've got more Falcons here set with Python missiles, which are, if I'm not mistaken, infrared guided and Israeli in nature. Or in, very similar to the Sidewinder, but not Sidewinders. All right. So that's pretty much that. There's not a lot of fighters here. Not a lot of offensive or even defensive resources that we have available to us. We do have a huge ace up our sleeve at Orchilla here with the AA-13s. That gives us a huge advantage in terms of aerial warfare against the NATO forces. But if the Ronald Reagan was spotted, I think our only recourse would be to use our surface fleet and our submarines to take to make an attack on the carrier or any of the other surface groups that have been spotted as well. And our quick math that we did earlier with the missiles available to us, we've got about 100 decently ranged surface attack missiles on all of our ships and submarines, maybe 120 give or take. The American forces have a very capable anti-air warfare complement of missiles as well, roughly, what, 200, 300 missiles. So it's going to be a really rough time trying to get that, trying to get those surface groups down. We can certainly do it, but it's going to require a lot of ingenuity and a lot of trial and error probably to make that work. The biggest asset by far that we have as the Russians in this scenario is our surface group and the capable weapons that they bring to the battle. Alrighty. So we got about 25 minutes left before I have to call the stream to an end. I just want to say again that we're doing a preview of the most recently announced Command Live DLC, King of the Border. The goal today is not to play the scenario through to the end. We're just going to do a little preview of both sides. We've already done the American side. We're rushing through the Russian side, no pun intended, to show everybody what's involved before I run out of time on the stream here. And we can also run the clock forward a tiny bit here and see what we're up against in terms of Colombian and American forces. There's not a lot of planes that I have to play with at La Chinita or at Orchilla. So I don't think I need to set up any missions, but what I am going to do is start the clock and see what we can see on the board here. And immediately, we've got some tuna sneaking up on our Akula 1. Let's get him nose in. Surface contact, unknown skunk. And I'm going to launch some aircraft from the Kuznetsov to aggressively scout. Here we'll launch 4 MiG-29s. I'm going to increase the time compression to 2x. I did notice that when I stopped playing the American side and before we switched Excuse me, before we switch to the Russian side, my CPU usage did go down, so hopefully the audio's come back to normal. I think going at 5x is what did it, so we'll stay at 2x here. It's a bit slower than I want to go, but hopefully that keeps the audio relatively clear. Alrighty, let's find our Orchilla airbase here. Where are you? There you are. Just going to launch some of our overpowered MiG-31s as well. Because why not? You get toys to play with, may as well play with the toys. All right, our MiG-29Ks from the Kuznetsov have launched. Send them aggressively towards where we think the Ronald Reagan will be. We've got some some pretty solid intel based on the fact we just played the U.S. side. But I mean, looking at the map here, you can obviously assume. Actually, if I hadn't played the U.S. side, I might have assumed the Ronald Reagan was over here to keep the Puerto Rican forces and the American carrier forces kind of on the same side. But we know for a fact they're over here, kind of trapped between us and the land of Central America. So we'll head towards that way, see if we can find them, see if we can do anything before we run out of time here. Maybe fire a weapon in anger. We haven't done that yet in this stream. We have not fired a weapon in anger. Although I think we almost blew up a school of tuna in front of our USS Jimmy Carter submarine earlier. Oh, the humanity. Still waiting for our Foxhounds to launch. How is the audio, guys? Is it still coming through nice and clear? Or is it choppy like it was when I was playing the American side? Ooh, the Reagan might have variable start locations. Good point. Okay, we are going to do something silly. Because we only have about 20 minutes left and I want something to happen. Well, going only at 2x time compression is not the easiest thing to do in terms of making something happen. So we're going to turn off MCON and we're going to turn on sonars for the Akula. See if we can't get a solid contact here. I would not recommend doing this if you were seriously playing this game. Active sonar is a great way to get your submarine discovered. But we are desperate for something to shoot. Let's get our Foxhounds going north, again, in desperation to find something to shoot. Now looking down south, the Venezuelan forces are launching their, what I'm assuming is initial attack on the forces around Oroca and Cucuta. Yeah, paint a target on the sub. Why not? Hey, if they shoot at me, I can shoot back at them. Let's see here. Let's go to creep speed. 26 knots is probably a little fast to have much in the way of decent sensor operation. Some launches from Puerto Rico. Multi-world aircraft. Unknown what they are just yet. Could be a whale. Wouldn't be the first time I've acted aggressive towards a whale. Okay, looks like these are F-16s. We haven't positively identified them just yet, but they're emitting like F-16s would. Foxhounds are on their way. I mean, look at this range. Look at this range. That is disgusting. 160 nautical mile range on that, on their AA-13 missiles. If we can see it, if we can get a lock on. There we are. Did that turn your radar on? I don't think it did. There we are. If we get a lock on with these guys on anything, F-16 or otherwise, there's no way we lose any Foxhounds. There's no way. They can fire and forget and turn around and run. I mean, not only that, not only do they have the best weapon in the game right now, they've also got the fastest plane. I think these guys go, what, like 1,500 knots or something? Where is it here? 1,350. Oh, no. They're not too fast. For some reason, faster. But either way, very, very powerful aircraft for us in this scenario. We have not discovered what this goblin is. Let's make sure we're just over the layer. We have a surface contact that we have not yet identified. The Venezuelan forces have been launched to do their evil plans over the border into Colombia. Our ground forces are heading towards the cities in question. And yeah, not a lot to do. Wait for something to happen. Looks like we've still got the F-16s from Puerto Rico. Lighten up our board here. I'm gonna try 5x. If it really ruins the audio, let me know and I'll turn it off. I'm also gonna turn down contact emissions. Turn that off. Fire control only. Data links is fine. Data blocks is fine. Targeting vectors is fine. I think we're okay. Hopefully that will 5x time compression will not kill the audio too much, I hope. All right, in the effort of expediency here, we're going to put these guys on full afterburn speed. They can't possibly escape us now. We have 30 minutes at full afterburner before we're at bingo fuel. Plenty of time. Let's see, how long does it take us to get to that waypoint? It's going to take us 10 minutes. All right, we're laughing. We are laughing. Is your sensor still on? They are still on. We are even picking up... Oh, we've got satellites in the air, too. Cosmos 2297. Helping us detect ESM contacts. Okay, we got a Hawkeye here. This is the one that we saw was already in the air. In the USA side of things here. So we know the Reagan's roughly here, assuming the same setup as what we saw earlier. Oh boy. Cosmos is now picking up a whole bunch of surface contacts by ESM. Cluttering the map up nicely. There we're getting some positive IDs here. We've actually picked up the Ronald Reagan. Here it is right here in the middle of this uncertainty zone. So we're roughly aware of where she's at, which is possibly very close to our Akula submarine. Please. Yeah, that uncertainty zone stretches all the way up here. Doesn't it? Maybe it doesn't. No, this is actually a pretty... Well, where'd you go? It was a pretty solid contact. All right, well, we are very close then. Come this way. Turn off your sensors. Fine. Go quiet. Gonna go flank speed as deep as possible. Go get him, cowboy. Meantime, our MiG-29s are on their way over to add their eyes, I guess. Not going to get there in time. Our MiG 31s. Oh, look at this. Look at this. We found our first target of the day. Down to cruise speed. And we're going to say manually attack. Have to be marked as hostile first. That's easy enough. And they're going to auto attack based on their weapons release authorization that's pre-programmed. Which is awesome. One missile each. They're coming at us to intercept us. Good luck with that, boys. Good luck with that. Whale rights activists. I know. No one cares about the tuna, though. I've killed plenty of tuna over the years, too. If the developers of Command Modern Air Naval Operations ever do a Halloween event, they should add in sharks with laser beams as a Halloween unit. That'd be pretty awesome. Lots of uncertain contacts on the board, which should firm up over time. We're only picking these up from space at the moment. From space! Survey says, we don't know what they are yet. Probably Falcons. All right, they're evading. We got 2 more. Mark those guys as hostile. Ill-tempered sea bass. I'm easy. They are F-18 Hornets. Mark this guy's hostile too. All right, so we finally had our first weapon fire in anger, which has resulted in 1 kill. We shot down an F-18. We know the Ronald Reagan is roughly... Oh, hang on a sec. We know Ronald Reagan's roughly in this uncertainty zone. Our Akula is making best speed over that way to get some intel and possibly give the death blow to the carrier. We have some incoming missiles here on our MiG-31s, which how have we done here? We've launched most of our AA-13s. Most of them. So they'll start to take evasive action. Actually, one of them's already RTB, I think. Yeah, he's shotgun. The other guy should be shotgun as well. So they should be turning around very shortly. Although it would not be very sporting of me if I just ran away. So we're going to keep on running towards the enemy here. Taking defensive measures. Our missiles are going active though, so it's not a big loss in terms of targeting. Although it looks like we actually did lose. Actually, that was a huge loss in targeting. Even though the missile went active, it didn't track with the target. Used to our tracking though. Survey says no. All right. Well, we did get lucky with one A-13 hit. We did lose 1 MiG-31. That being said, if this scenario was being played on further, we would still have a huge advantage over the enemy aircraft with our their massive missile ranges. Let's see how this turns out. 1 on 4. 1 on 4. Feeling pretty confident. Think we got this. I'll take 1 on 4 odds any day. Okay, we're firing off our final missile. And we're going defensive. Only got our gun left for defense. Or offense, I should say. And looks like, well, we lost our second MiG-31. And our first missile failed to track. See how the other two do. Hey, we shot down an F-16. All right, so F-18s and F-16s in the area to counter our MiG-31s. 2 for 2, not a bad result. Although in the end, if we were playing this through fully and not just doing a preview, that would be a significant portion of our defense force at Orchilla. Well, we shot down another F-16. Now we do have some action going on down here between the Venezuelan and the Colombian forces. Looks like we've got a flight of Su-30s tangling with a flight of Kafirs. Looks like it's a one-on-one now. There's probably 2-on-2 or something greater than that a while back. I'll have to check the scoring log and see what happened. Still one-on-one. What's your weapon status? You have... Doesn't tell us what you have. Oh no, you shot no, it's a missile. Never mind. Get with the game, Doc. Get with the game. All right, so let's take a quick pause here. Check the scoring log. Minor defeat. We'd turn it around if we had enough time. The Venezuelan side lost one Su-30, so I was correct. It was it used to be a 2-on-2 because they shot down a single Kafir. We lost 2 Foxhounds and we shot down 2 Falcons and a Hornet. All right, so what have we learned today? What have we learned today? We've learned that the Russian side seems to be very capable in terms of defense of Orchilla Island. They certainly have an air-to-air warfare advantage over the Americans coming from Puerto Rico in range at the very least. The deciding factor there may be the stealth offered by the Raptors from Puerto Rico, but of course we'd have to play the scenario through further to see what that actually looks like. Unfortunately, because we're doing a preview stream and because I'm out of time here, we're going to have to call things to a close. I did have fun streaming this for you guys. Hopefully you had some fun watching and you now understand what the King of the Border DLC contains and how interesting that's going to be when it finally does release, whenever that is. Like I said earlier, this is a preview stream, and what you're seeing in front of you is a preview of what the final product could be. There possibly will be some changes before the end, so what you're seeing today is not going to be exactly what it's going to look like when it does get released. But hopefully you had fun today watching both sides and seeing the order of battle and then seeing a bit of hastily thrown together action. I mean, going at 5-second time compression and only getting 15 minutes into the scenario from both sides doesn't give us a lot of time to put together a lot of action. But again, today's focus was more on a preview and an idea of what the scenario was about, rather than playing it until the end and seeing all the nooks and crannies that we can get into and all the kills and battles that we can fight. So, all right, let's just take a look at chat before I get ready to sign off here. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, the F-22s are out there somewhere, I assume. I don't know what these are. These unknown bogeys that we just saw. But they were definitely F-16s and F-18s that we initially engaged. All right, so it looks like we're wrapping up here. Just want to say thank you to everybody who came out, everybody who asked questions. Robbie7979, the author of the scenario in question, in chat for taking a lot of time out of his day to answer questions as well for the chat. I am Dr. Zayas, normally from the Stoic Frog Gaming channel. I've got a YouTube presence at stoicfrog.tv. A lot of you probably know me from my command videos over there. I also stream on Twitch at twitch.stoicfrog.tv. I actually got a stream tonight at 8 o'clock. I do some Command Modern Air Naval operations and other games as well, so if you're interested in knowing more about me, head on over to stoicfrog.tv or twitch.stoicfrog.tv to see my YouTube and Twitch pages, and hopefully we'll see some of you again sometime soon. So thanks for coming out, guys. On behalf of Slytherin and Robbie and the scenario author and myself, thank you for coming on out and seeing our preview of the upcoming Command Live DLC, and as always, take care, have a good day, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you again next time. Good night.